Hello and welcome to TNA Top 10. It is what, September 16th, 2024? We'll go with that. I don't know what episode number it is. We don't do that anymore. We don't keep up with it. Welcome, Allison and Andrew. How's it going tonight?
Hi.
My nose is running. I just ate jalapenos. But thank you for asking, Terry.
I didn't drive 28 hours in a 5-day span, so I'm doing really well.
All right.
You act like that was a lot.
Nah, it was nothing.
Yeah, that's
They were all surprised I wanted to drive the whole way, and I'm like, have you met me? I mean, neither one of you would be surprised.
Well, I did some driving yesterday for no apparent reason at all.
Please tell us.
Yes, tell us about your tour, your car ride.
So, Birmingham's about 2 hours from here. And Cyrus, we talked about Cyrus playing soccer a lot, and now he's playing club soccer, kind of like travel ball, And we find out about stuff pretty much last minute, and the games are all over the state. Well, he was supposed to have a game yesterday afternoon in Birmingham, and in the morning we hear it's on, so we pack up and we go and we get down there. And about 30 minutes before the game, they say, "Oh, it was canceled like 2 hours ago." So, needless to say, I'm trying to figure out whose fault that is, how we can improve things moving forward. So I haven't yelled at anybody at this point. I have asked some questions though.
So what
Terry,
he's saying is he didn't act like you or I would have, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard because quite frankly, I would have been doing some yelling.
Yeah.
Well,
and you all know
that. I was watching a game. I was watching kids play soccer on the field that I thought we were supposed to play on. And ours got canceled for weather. And I'm like, how does this make sense? But apparently we weren't even at the right field. So everything went wrong.
I would have yelled first and asked questions later. That's kind of how I do things.
I was trying to direct my anger. But I think it's going to end up being they send an email, and who checks their email when they're driving? So our people didn't see it until they got there. So I kind of blame the league for that, maybe. So I don't know. I don't know what this is going to result in.
Sounds kind of dumb to me. And Planning Terry is not a fan of these sort of shenanigans. So to this club soccer group, whoever's out there listening to the sound of my voice, get your shit together because Terry's not having it. Not having it.
And we're supposed to go to Nashville this weekend for a tournament. And I've already said if we get up there and they cancel the tournament, we're just going to have a weekend in Nashville, and it's going to be fun.
Nice.
So.
Well, I mean, you got to make the most of it. Like you said, that's a 5-hour commitment in itself to and from Nashville or thereabouts, isn't it?
No, Nashville's an hour and a half.
Oh, well, still
not too bad. Yeah.
That one's not awful, but it's still not 10 minutes down at the community park like I put in the
not.
group
chat. So we're going to make the best of it this time.
Well, and like you said, you had to get a hotel and everything because it's out of town. And it's Nashville,
and actually, they're going to pull the money for that hotel tonight at midnight. So that's why I said we're going to spend 2 nights in Nashville, no matter what happens.
Way, yeah.
Yeah, forget that. So today, before we move on, would have been Father's 70th birthday. He passed February 15th. So he was born on one of the 2 Mexican Independence Days, for those of you playing along at home.
Look at that.
Yeah. But everyone have tequila for him because that was his drink.
See, if I'd have known that,
that was my drink.
Bourbon, and
I've been sending you alcohol recipes, and I don't even drink. That's what type of friend I am. Yeah. I have been sending you alcohol recipes in the reels, but something tells me that you're once again behind, Terrence.
I'm not behind. I just decided that I was skipping a bunch of them.
Someone's behind, Allison.
Behind. Not me.
She's not behind. No. Allison is always caught up. But when you have what is the name of this hurricane or storm? Helene?
I don't know.
We've had 6. It's Francine, isn't it?
No, we got Helene. Helene was a.
Or are we past Francine? Or Francine? That was so last week. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so we've got this one called Helene here, and it is tropical cyclone number 8. So they're not calling it a depression, a tropical storm, or a hurricane. But in Goldsboro today, well, that ain't right. I must not have refreshed. It says it's 6/10 of an inch of rain, but that's a lie. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll be getting that rain later this week. Not excited for it, but
You guys can have it. We're planning to play soccer in Nashville this weekend. Hopefully the rain stays with you guys.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So what's
Well,
got you pissed?
I was gonna say, I noticed a horrible trend over the last couple of weeks, and it is people tipping poorly. Okay, so I had a delivery today, and I tipped my driver in cash. And I asked him, I said, do most people tip you in cash or do they use the card? And does it matter to you? I said, I'm genuinely, interested to find out because I want to, the tip is for you. I don't want anybody taking a cut of it. And he said, no, we're really lucky. No matter how you give us a tip, we'll get the entire tip. I was like, okay, well, that's really great. He goes, yeah, it's just, nice to see somebody who tips. And I said, what? He said you would not imagine the number of delivery people who order from a delivery service who do not tip if they are hand delivered a package or, and I'm not talking like your Amazon driver. I'm talking like food service, things like that. And I was like, it can't be that many. He goes, I'm at probably about 50-50 at this point. And I was shocked.
Yeah.
So to me, you tip and you tip generously. I'm not like my best friend over there, Andrew, who would tip to the high heavens if he was allowed. But I tend to think I'm a good tipper. What do you think?
I may have lost my mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
We
hear
can
you.
hear
It's not
you.
the same
Okay,
thing.
so this stupid thing. The dog is over here chomping on his bone, so I'm trying to keep the background noise down. But, 108 pounds, he's loud. Anyway, of course he has to get right up on where the computer desk is because he needs to be as close to me as possible. Jerk off. Always tip. Don't be a shyster. It's not cool. They don't do anything. They make $2.13 an hour by federal law in many cases. So yeah, tip and tip generously. And I always tip generously. Even if you suck, you'll get a decent tip, more than 15%, most of the time 20%, but I'll never use your service again.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and my parents apparently, since we're talking about this, I haven't talked to my mom about this, but she blasted this on Facebook. Apparently my dad is 81 years old. So he goes to Red Lobster. I'll just throw the name out there. He goes to Red Lobster. And apparently and I didn't know this, but they like to tip with cash on the table instead of on the card. Well, apparently somebody at Red Lobster added $10 to his bill because he put no tip on the card because he needs to probably put cash on the table on there or something.
Yeah.
But still, so there's a lot of old ladies on Facebook really pissed off at that.
Ooh, I would be too.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what the results of that is. I'll have to ask her,
But I agree with you. It's probably better to write left in cash.
yeah, just so you know.
Just not no tip. Because I can understand, but there would have been money on the table, so unless somebody swiped the money.
Yeah, that's pure thievery. That's all that is.
Yeah. Well, it happens.
So what's up with the baseball? I have not watched any of it. I'm just gonna be honest. I haven't watched baseball and I haven't watched wrestling in a while. So I rely on
Lord,
you guys
Terry.
for these 2 pages. Well,
That's all good.
it is what it is. I catch the football because we got a whole show about it.
Yes.
But baseball and wrestling, I'm
too
a
much.
little bit behind.
Well, all I'm gonna say to kind of hype Andrew up and get him started is the drought is over, and it was ended with a bang. So it was pretty exciting.
Pun intended.
Oh God.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I'm texting the group chat because I'm getting roasted about my quarterback right now because he's a Patrick Mahomes cosplayer.
So I laid one in there for you for Aaron Judge, Andrew.
Yeah, well, he did go out with a bang. Grand slam, walk off, Yankees win, take it from
Walk-off
Boston.
grand slam. Geez.
Yes, sir.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's one hell of a way to hit number 52. And number 53 yesterday came at 450 yards. And the minute the pitcher let the ball go, Terry, he knew. He knew. He knew. He threw the wrong pitch. He's oh shit. So the baseball, the Yankees, 87-63, 7-3 in the last 10, and that's without Judge hitting until yesterday and the day before. 3 games up on Baltimore, best record in the American League, still behind the Dodgers and the Brewers. Moving the pitching staff around continues. Garrett Cole is the lone loser to the Boston Red Sox, making a decision to intentionally walk a hitter, and then that started the rally, and before you know it, Yankees were down 5-1.
Mhm.
So I don't know what Garrett Cole's problem is, but he better pull his head out of his ass before October. Otherwise, he could go ahead and sit in the bullpen because we don't fucking need him. Yankees.
Maybe you need to start calling Jarrett Cole again.
Yes, there we go. He was doing great when it was Jarrett
Yeah.
Cole.
Well, he was injured when it was Jarrett Cole.
Yeah, well,
Listen,
he wasn't sucking.
Well, he's
so.
playing against minor leaguers at that point, so he was doing great.
this is Judge. 53 home runs, 321 batting average, career record 132 RBIs, and we're not done yet. 1.147 OPS. So while he hasn't been hitting home runs, he has still been contributing offensively, stealing bases, getting the runs in. And they're in Seattle tonight for 3, I think it is.
Yes,
They
3.
played Boston in 4, but they're in 3. And they have a very good lead. Right now, Baltimore is slacking off. Yankees are picking up. So they've got 3 lead. Terry, I cannot say the same about your Braves, but you can tell us all about it.
Well, it's the same thing every week. It's they won 5 games out of the last 10. They're tied for the 3rd spot in the wild card. They're way behind the
Mets.
Phillies. And it's like the stupid Mets. Sorry if anybody's a Mets. Not really. I'm not sorry. I feel sorry for you if you're a Mets fan. I guess that's what I should say. But God, come on, Braves. These next 10, I challenge you to win 8 games in these next 10. Pull away from the damn Mets.
Well, your biggest problem is you guys keep going back and forth between 1 up, 1 down, even, 1 up, 1 down, even,
Yeah.
and you're in the 3rd wild card spot. And
Right.
I put that here, the playoff picture right now, Yankees, Guardians, Astros, 1, 2, and 3 in the American League. Baltimore, Kansas City, Minnesota are your wild card leaders. Phillies, Brewers, Dodgers. Terry, you don't have to like it, but the Brewers, as of Friday, are 134 run differential plus run differential.
Wow.
They are the baseball version of that football team that runs it up the middle and just keeps getting 5 yards and and plays defense and it's boring. That's the
Wisconsin
Brewers.
under Brett Bielema.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But no, and then of course,
Hey, and they're in Wisconsin, so it makes sense.
Phillies have the best record in baseball, first team to 90. Dodgers right on their heels, 88-61. Brewers are 86-63. Yankees 87-63. Cleveland 86-67. So everybody is getting real close to playoff baseball. You're going to find out real fast, Terry, if the Brewers are contenders or pretenders. Because we ain't watching no Brewers games. But when you look at them statistically, wins, losses, all of that, then I don't know. We'll see. Because they play in the NL Central, which is, the Cubs and the Reds, and I'm not exactly sure that that is the best place for them to be playing. So, or not the best gauge of how strong that team is. I do know they're 132 plus run differential.
That's so nuts.
Plus 132, which is more than the Yankees. And the Yankees are plus 100.
Right.
We have not had a White Sox update lately. How many losses do the White Sox have? Do we know that?
We need to Google that.
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Is it, if it's not 40, and of course tonight Bryant Haremza is not in the audience razzing all of us.
So the White Sox are 35 and 115.
Woo!
Gosh.
It's like I say,
35 and
there are
115.
people at my job that have really terrible credit.
And that's
and I
with
mean,
12
they
games left.
Like they didn't pay anybody. the White Sox are like those people. You have to work hard to be that bad. That's all I'm saying. You've got to work hard to only win 35 games in a 162 game season.
So glad that this year when I visited Chicago, I went to a Cubs game and not a White Sox game because we did.
Could you
White
imagine
Sox.
how boring it would be?
Well,
And
we did
talk
it last
about-
year and it was a lot of fun. This year, no.
Well, that's like here in Carolina. It's not baseball. It's pro football. Right now, because the Panthers are so god-awful, you can get a ticket to the Bank of America football stadium for cheaper than you can park. And that's how bad, like, the White Sox are. It's $25 to park in the garage in Charlotte in Bank of America Stadium. You can buy a ticket in the second section, not the nosebleeds, for $9.95 right now on StubHub to go to a Carolina Panthers game. They are that bad.
Wow.
That bad. But like
Aren't
everything,
they benching
Charlotte,
Bryce Young now too? Didn't they mention
they're
that?
benching Bryce Young for Andy Dalton, who is, was good at TCU 15 years ago. But anyway, and the Eagles just kicked off. And by the way, I know we didn't have football on the program tonight, Allison. Your man, Jason Kelsey, looking like a damn extra out of The Sopranos in his
Snack.
Eagles jumpsuit. He's got his gold chain out, wife beater just the way he likes it, taco meat showing.
So the funny thing to me is we don't talk about the NFL
Mm-mm.
at all.
Nope.
Nope.
But pretty soon, baseball is going to be off the docket. We're
Yeah,
going
we
to have
might
to
be
figure out how
talking about the NFL.
Yeah, we just don't have enough time.
We don't
dude.
make these decisions early.
God. Well, you know what
No.
else we could talk about? We could talk about wrestling.
The wrestling.
We could.
We don't call it the wrestling. We call it the baseball, but not the wrestling.
Well, wrestling has been less than lately.
And I'm going to agree with that.
So we talked about last week, Terry. I know you didn't watch because you're busy. And you don't watch AEW anyway. But last week we talked about how big a deal it was coming out of that violent-ass pay-per-view and whatnot. Dog, would you take a chill pill? We talked about how violent that pay-per-view was. Then they decided to do a complete reset. Out of nowhere, we're going to get Nigel McGuinness in a non-title match versus Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, rather. Not John Moxley, who, by the way, tried to murder him on pay-per-view. And now we're going to get Moxley versus Darby, because that makes perfect sense, because Moxley wants Darby's title shot, but really didn't need the title shot motive to murder Bryan Danielson on pay-per-view. And then we're going to get the Bucks versus Ospreay and Fletcher, mostly because apparently we want to see Will Ospreay in every possible incarnation of professional wrestling. And so rather than have him defend the shitty title that doesn't matter, the Bucks want to fantasy book themselves into a match with him and Kyle Fletcher at Grand Slam. Here's my problem with Grand Slam and why I think they're shooting their wad. They have 4,000 tickets sold in a 5,700 setup in a stadium that holds
Ooh.
23,000 people in New York. And it's next Wednesday. Week from
You
the
said
week
5,700. Their setup is 5,700.
5700 in a stadium that will hold 23,000 at Arthur Ashe.
Goodness.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And this creative reset doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. If somebody out there watching our program can go ahead and explain it, I will be more than glad to entertain it.
Well,
But,
I'll be headed
Well,
to
I would
Collision
not
this
argue with them
Saturday.
doing a creative reset,
Oh.
but I would question the direction of it.
I would agree.
Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson was hot 15 to 18 years ago when they were in Ring of Honor. Nobody that watches AEW except for the hardcore segment has any idea that Nigel McGuinness was arguably Bryan Danielson's greatest foil. Arguably.
Nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that.
I agree.
They just know that McGuinness has been ribbing him for the last year on Collision, but that requires you to watch Collision, which nobody watches because it's on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock.
Hey, I'm going next Saturday at 8 o'clock.
Well, we
I'm
will
waiting
not
for this
see you
dog
on
to
TV.
break a tooth on this
You will
bone.
not
This is
see that.
ridiculous. What are you doing?
You would
We're
have to-
live. I don't care.
No, I
I'm
will
asking
say, since we're talking about wrestling, and maybe there's not anything great to talk about, I've been trying to influence some friends to get back into it. because they're like, "Oh, I used to watch it." I'm like,
Why
drop
don't
the
you?
used to part. I say that like I watch it, whatever.
No,
But
you just get your arm ripped off by Will Ospreay as he's
yes,
talking about.
absolutely.
That's right.
He absolutely. My hand was blood red when I grabbed it back. But
Dude was jacked, won't he, Terry? He was ready
oh
to go.
yeah, he was fired up. Then if we're going to go back to that, the one moment I remember from that night was Sting grabbing my hands and looking in my eyes, and I'm like, I didn't know what the hell to say to him.
I love you.
I love you, man. I was like, oh, that was so pathetic.
All of a sudden, fucking Terry's in old school. You're my boy, Blue. I love you, Sting. Oh,
Oh,
starstruck. And you've met wrestlers. Now, the other program, WWE, is putting on Bad Blood. Oh, Allison has a thought. Sorry, honey. Didn't mean to jump the
No,
shark.
it's okay. It's perfect for your transition. My thing was I wanted to ask you guys. I know Terry you didn't watch, but perhaps Andrew if you did. Since All Out, I have noticed WWE programming is just a tad more violent.
A tad. They opened a steel cage match this past week, which we're going to talk about. But that steel cage match didn't have shit on Swerve and Hangman. It wasn't even close. But it was also on network television, not pay-per-view.
Correct.
Cody did bleed a little bit. He's going to because, his last name's Rhodes.
Have you been?
And as much as he tries, he'll never be his daddy. I said it. I don't regret it. I don't care. Send your hate tweets to @30yearfan. Do not care.
That 30's got to be much higher these days.
36 as of December.
You're going to change it at 40?
Yeah, 40-year fan. Yeah. It's easy to, the thing is I'd be expecting everybody every year to remember. It's 37-year fan here. But no, it's good stuff. And as long as this dog doesn't chew this cord, we're good. I don't know. He is wearing this damn bone out over here.
So
And,
do you think that there's?
that's what
Well,
she
let me ask this. So do we think that maybe with the shift in where they're going to be having Raw and where they're going to have SmackDown and moving around, that it might not just be the whole All Out was graphic, so they're getting a little more rough. They might be setting up something on Netflix where once they go to Netflix, it might be a little more graphic.
Yeah, I honestly don't think Triple H pays nearly as much attention to AEW, and neither do any of his people, as everyone online wants you to believe that they pay attention to AEW. I think that they're trying to produce the best products, and let's face it, Netflix is going to give them a lot of latitude. And we can just go ahead and talk about it. They're going 2 hours to Raw now. Raw is now 2 hours, USA, 8 to 10, through the end of the year, it's in and out. Are you training your audience that we're now going to be a 2-hour program on Netflix? Or is this just because of the USA deal who they got a little extra money for, blah, blah, blah? Well, if you're going to pay them the extra money, what the difference does 2 hours versus 3 hours make? So,
Well, maybe that was a choice based on advertiser costs, or
It's easier to book a 2-hour show than a 3-hour show, I would say.
Well, see, I don't know if I'm going to agree with that, because with the amount of talent that they have, 3 hours.
We'll do what AEW does. Put them all in one match.
Stop it.
There you go.
Andrew's head might explode.
She's not wrong. My head would explode.
Yes, I know.
That would be brutal. But no, that you're not wrong, Terry. But you've got to be very selective now with what you're going to put on television for 2 hours, because they still have commercials on USA. It's not that now when Netflix comes, they have said they're going to have commercials. You know why they're going to have commercials? Because WWE fans are already accustomed to having commercials, and we can sell sponsorships to make money back. Because you're already used to having a commercial if you've been watching Fox or USA. That is a really smart move by Netflix. Yep. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about Vinnie Mac's documentary. So, there's that too. But anyway.
What else will you talk about?
SmackDown. Are we talking about SmackDown?
Go ahead. I thought we were done with wrestling. I don't know.
Oh. I'm
I
about
was
done.
waiting on somebody to use the word legendary or something, and I was gonna
Yeah,
try
well,
that.
legendary.
Or
Here's the thing
iconic.
about wrestling. Randy Orton's a legend who hears voices in his head. And I would like Terry to explain what we're talking about tonight here on TNA Top 10.
Oh, that was
Well, I'll be
an
glad to.
amazing
We are talking about
transition.
the top 10 iconic Hollywood voices, and here's the reason we're doing this. So we lost a legend last week, or in the last week, James Earl Jones, and he's been in numerous fantastic roles and has one of the greatest voices ever. And we thought about what list we could do to commemorate him. We first thought we would rank his characters, but we ran into a little bit of a problem with the number of options because he isn't a guy that has done a bunch of different characters. He just has 6 to 8 that he did very well. And, I kind of joked with you guys. The other ones, he's got about 40 narrators and 40 voice of God roles, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But we are doing the top 10 iconic Hollywood voices. Let's get it rolling, guys.
Hold on,
Oh,
because
what?
I always do this to you.
Of course.
Before you start, the criteria
Oh,
for
yeah.
our audience. Close your eyes, hear the voice, know who it is or what character it is. That's how we define the iconic voices of Hollywood.
And knowing the list, I think these fit that, but maybe in different ways. Why don't we start with number 10,
That's
Matthew McConaughey?
All right. Who the hell put McConaughey on the list anyway? I don't think I voted for him. I don't know that I did or not.
I don't know if I did or not, honestly. I've got to start taking a screenshot when I vote so I remember.
So take.
I remember the football ones. Bam, bam, bam. But ask me not these.
Well, Andrew, do just what you said. Close your eyes. Say that again. Say all right, all
Oh,
right, all
yeah.
right, and
All right,
you
all right, all right.
instantly think of him.
If you're mad about this one, I know
No.
you're not mad, but if you don't agree with this one, you just wait for a few and you'll really be shaken up.
Best creepy line ever. That's what I love about them high school girls. I keep getting older and they stay the same age. Your ass is going to jail one of these days. That's what they told him.
But he's had some big roles. I mean,
was
I
gonna
don't.
say, True Detective. He was in,
Yep.
right? He was
Mhm.
great in that.
The John Grisham book, A Time to Kill, he was the lawyer.
Mhm.
And We Are Marshall, so he did
yeah.
football.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Even
then,
though he's a huge Texas fan, he did We Are Marshall.
oh my God. You know he's going nuts. We'll get into that in the second hour.
Yeah.
We do see him on. I have seen him on Game Day. I mean, he's been.
Yeah.
on
Oh
a
yeah.
few times.
No, oh you will. Wolf of Wall Street. There's one for you.
Ooh, yeah.
him across from DiCaprio for
Yeah.
Pete's
And we
sake.
watched a movie a couple of weeks ago. I can't think of the name of it. It was like where he was like a pilot or whatever, and it's in the future, and they didn't believe in NASA anymore and all that stuff. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. It's one
Yeah,
word
no
that
idea.
starts with an I. Anyway, bonus points for anybody that can tell me what that.
But McConaughey, I mean, honestly, like you say, if you close your eyes, you hear his voice at all. It doesn't have to be the stoner from Dazed and Confused, but you hear the voice at all. You know exactly who it is. Exactly who it is.
I like it.
Oh, even some of those moments in We Are Marshall where he's explaining, like, we're going to run the veer, and that kind of thing.
We
That's
call it
great.
the option, but it's the same play.
Oh, Lord. Too funny.
All right, let's go to number 9, Jack Nicholson.
Of course.
I mean, again,
Nathan
so
Argis.
many different things you can think about with him.
And he's gearing up right here in this picture that I chose to say, you can't handle the truth. He's not quite there yet, but he's getting
Because
ready.
he ordered the code red, damn it. But yeah, Nathan R. Jessup. And this one, the Joker.
I mean, for me,
the author in The Shining.
Yeah, that's where I was going. He had me terrified.
Anger management as the therapist.
Oh, that's a good one. That's great.
As good as it gets, I thought.
As good as it gets with Helen Hunt. My grandmother loved that movie.
That's a good movie.
And he was dirty as hell in that
Hell
movie.
yes.
Oh, it was awful. But, when you think of Nicholson and you hear him start talking like this, it's a very distinct cadence with the way that he talks. And he eats breakfast 300 yards away from 4,000 Cubans that are trained to kill me. So, no Navy officer in his faggoty white uniform is going to come tell me how to run my unit. Shit is hilarious. But Nicholson, he's been around for whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and when he did the Joker, he did the original Joker in the Batman, the 89 Batman with Michael
60
Keaton.
years. It's got to be over 60 years now.
Do you remember the song from Batman by, I think it was a remix by like Prince? Maybe?
Not
And
sure.
they
Prince
sampled
song?
pieces of his voice in the song.
No. I
Oh,
gotta
I'm gonna
look that up.
I am gonna
A
find
Prince
it.
song with Jack Nicholson
I'm gonna
about
find
Batman.
it and I'm gonna send it to you.
Now I have homework.
We're gonna
'cause
start
that-
the next
fantastic.
week's show with that, I think.
Prince
Sounds
and
good.
Michael Jackson. Jack Nicholson. I am down for Prince and
You're
Jack
gonna make
Nicholson.
me find it now.
Terry, number 9 was great. Number 10 was great. But who's number 8 that slid in there above them both?
Number 8 is Liam Neeson, and I've got this moment in cinematic history where he's on the phone talking about what he's going to do when he finds these people with his daughter.
I will find you. I have a very specific set of skills. Taken, turn to Taken 2, turn to Taken 3. I think we're on Taken 31 at this point. It's like the
It's
Michael
like
Myers.
Home Alone. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a suspense version of Home Alone. It's like, how does this keep happening?
Yeah, exactly. And how do you guys let it keep happening? That's what I want.
But the best
Um,
part about him is like he does a ton of cameos in movies just with like that line, just like to make it. And if you didn't know, if you were just listening to the movie, you'd be like, "It's Liam Neeson." No question.
Yeah, so he was in Batman Begins as the villain who was the trainer who trained them how to fight, and I forget his name. He was obviously
Ra's al
in
Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. He was in Star Wars, in the Taken movies. So I'm pretty sure Liam Neeson was in the first Star Wars, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Liam Neeson?
Phantom
I could
Menace?
be wrong.
Yeah.
Could be wrong about that.
Uh,
When you say first Star Wars,
I mean the prequel, number 1.
okay,
Episode 1. Yeah, the prequel, episode 1. But I'm pretty sure he's the one who plays the trainer to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Adam O'Neill, a great Irishman. Speaking of Irishmen that we love, Adam's here, boy and girl. What do we think?
I love it. Liam Neeson, spot on, absolutely.
Yeah, Liam Neeson. He's really, really good. Yeah, he was in Star Wars Episode 1 as Gui Khan, I
Sure.
think is how you would say it. But anyway, he was Obi-Wan's trainer. I knew that I wasn't hallucinating completely tonight. What's number 6, Terry?
or number 7,
7.
and we're going to swing a little bit here.
Whatever.
Fran
She said-
Drescher.
Oh, my God.
I mean, you're not gonna get any argument from me. She's fucking.
She reminds me so much of what's her name from My Cousin Vinny. All you showed him.
Oh.
Marissa Tomei. All you showed him. You so suave you are. It's called disclosure, you fucking dickhead. If they don't give you the evidence, then it'll be a mistrial.
Well, I'll just admit this because I was either in high school or college when this was out, and you know that graph of crazy versus hot that you see.
Are you using a Venn diagram?
No, this is just a graph
It's a flat out crazy versus
that still goes with annoying voice. So annoying voice versus hot, and I think the hot kind of won out here when I was that age, at least, because
All right.
she was
Hot.
dressing nice on the show and everything, so I appreciated that.
I liked
So
her.
I turned
'cause
off the sound.
She had the big hair. The big hair did it for me. I was such a fan.
Well, and this is a typical 90s sitcom, and she was just so outlandish compared to the rest of the people in the show, and it works. It works. It's fine.
Absolutely.
I never watched The Nanny. It was never one that I watched.
She'd make you feel like you were at
I
home.
like the intro song to that show too. I know that's not what we're talking about, but it was
But that's what I remember her from, honestly, was The Nanny. Is there anything
Well, I mean,
big-
she hasn't done much of anything else. It's just pretty much that. That's all I know her from. She may have done a movie or two, but nothing big.
Mhm.
Agree.
Let's hit up number 6, and that is Robin Williams, and I've got him saying, "Good morning, Vietnam."
And I was
Terry,
saying
you didn't say it.
earlier,
Yes,
yeah,
I didn't say it right. I wasn't gonna because my mic will mute if I say things too loud. I've
That's true.
learned that. So
I wish mine would. This dog is driving me crazy. He's about to get it when we have our break.
oh, Cyrus removed my little
Oh,
wind
no.
thing off of here. So sorry if you hear my breathing.
No, it's fine.
I utilize one of Robin Williams' lines all the time, and I said it to you guys earlier. I always go, hello, a la Mrs. Doubtfire. So
Mrs. Doubtfire, the genie from Aladdin, 1 through 3. Mork and Mindy. He had a very distinct voice. Excuse me, just
oh, one of the
Oh, and
dogs
then
is
what's
dead.
that movie?
He did Patch Adams.
Oh, that was good. I
That
remember.
was good.
Oh,
Sad,
that was
but
a
good.
that was at a girl's house too.
Oh,
But also,
he did Jack, where he was the kid that grew up 4 times faster than
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
Remember that one? That was
was a
dumb.
good one.
what about the
Uh,
one where he was the professor? It was less comedy and more serious.
Dead
Oh,
Poet
Goodwill
Society.
Hunting. Goodwill
Yeah,
Hunting.
Dead Poet. And then I guess I thought of both of those, honestly. I was talking about Dead Poet Society,
Oh.
but I guess that's true for Goodwill Hunting also.
That's
They
really
have
a
a lot
good
of range.
point.
Yeah.
I will sound my barbaric yalt from the rooftops of the world, as he
God,
quoted
that-
Walt Whitman.
Well, I
that
love Walt
movie was so
Whitman
good.
too, because I've talked about the baseball documentary from Ken Burns. The whole thing starts out with a Walt Whitman quote from when he was writing for the newspaper, I think in Philadelphia
Oh, wow.
in the 1800s or something. And the whole documentary starts with that. It is fantastic.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
Robin Williams, like you guys said, the range, because Goodwill Hunting is not a comedy.
No.
But and even Good Morning Vietnam, yes, he's Adrian Cronauer, the disc jockey or whatever, is supposed to bring up morale. That's the whole point of the show. But you have the Viet Cong and you have the North Vietnamese Army and all of that sort of thing, and you have the politics, what can be said and what can't be said on the radio. So you see the censorship. Then he did Aladdin, and like you said, he did Mrs. Doubtfire, which was completely different than all of those. But again, close your eyes, you can hear his voice, and it's so distinctive in all of those characters. Plus, Terry, as we made fun of Jack Nicholson a minute ago, Robin Williams had the ability, as he says in Mrs. Doubtfire, to do voices, but he could actually do different impersonations of different people, from Ronald Reagan, Jack Nicholson. I mean, and you just start going down the line.
Number 5, Christopher Walken. Talk about closing your eyes and recognizing a voice.
Yo, babies, I need more cowbell.
And I didn't really know which character to go after with him.
You should have done the cowbell one.
Should have done the cowbell. Oh, babies, I gotta have more cowbell.
I can't.
Or the one out of Pulp Fiction. So your dad,
That's the one I was thinking of.
he loved you
most.
so much that he hid this gold watch in his ass.
But I really enjoyed his character on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if he had a name or if they ever named him.
Oh,
but
the
one
Continental?
where,
Or at the
oh yeah,
was
where he
it-
wouldn't let the girl leave his apartment or whatever.
Was that it? I think that was it, right?
I think
At the
so.
Continental? Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh, that was so good. I agree. Yeah, he is. Gosh, he's.
And
one
then he
of
was
the
in
guys,
Joe Dirt.
Oh, jeez.
That was a movie I never liked, but that's okay.
No,
I just didn't like it.
I love it.
All right.
But yeah, Walken. Yeah, babies, we gotta have more cowbell. I got a fever. The only prescription,
It's
more
not
cowbell. And fucking Will Ferrell with the damn cowbell.
Okay. All right. Whew, breathe.
Okay. Number
Top
4.
4 answers are on the board, Terry.
Number 4, Sean Connery.
Oh, the
course.
hottest James Bond that ever was.
Gotta be.
Yeah. Talking about
Great
pussy
basis.
galore.
Woo.
And
And
The Highlander. The
Uh,
movie with him and
the
Catherine
Rock?
Zeta-Jones where they steal
Oh,
shit.
Oh
I
yeah,
love that movie.
that's good. I don't remember the name of it.
Great
That's very
movie.
good.
It was
I'm
so
gonna
good I
have to
can't remember
Google
the
that.
title, but it was a good
Sean
one.
Connery
It
and
was.
Catherine Zeta-Jones, and somebody in the chat might know, but
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It was
I love everything he did. The Rock
Entrapment.
was without a doubt my favorite.
Entrapment. That's right.
Entrapment.
Yeah.
Both thieves. Yeah, they were fantastic in that movie.
I mean, just hearing
She
Sean
was
Connery
extra
say
fantastic.
"Welcome to the Rock," do you not like? You can hear that
Oh,
in your
yeah.
head, right?
Oh man,
yeah, where he does the whole gimmick where he does under the boilers or whatever. He's rolling, and then he comes and that's great. No, Connery's hard to miss. That's that one. I don't know that you get too much more iconic than that.
Well,
oh,
let's
you're
see.
about to.
Oh boy.
We got 3 ahead of him that are
Okay.
yeah. Let's go ahead and get it. Number 3, motherfucking Samuel L. Jackson.
There you go. The
He will be the
narrator-
man if there ever is a live audiobook that will narrate my life. Because I can't do Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones or any of the rest of the people that have played God in movies and stuff. I need Samuel L. Jackson. And of course, Terry picks my favorite role from Samuel L. Jackson, where he's Jules in Pulp Fiction. And he's having a tasty burger, Terry. Would you mind if I had a drink of your beverage?
Are
You know what
having
they
a
call
Royale
quarter
with
pounder and
cheese?
cheese?
So Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
See, and for me, my favorite of his is Nick Fury. I love him as Nick Fury. I love the attitude, the sass. I think he's awesome in that role.
I'm pretty sure he's also the guy that was trying to rob McDowell's in Coming to America.
Yes, he was. They've got the golden arches. McDowell
We got
had
the golden arcs.
arcs.
And we don't have. We got blah blah blah, but we don't have a sesame seed bud.
But yeah, Samuel L. Jackson has been great, and he's had he like so many of these others a ton of movies. Jurassic Park, as an example, he was in Jurassic Park. Snakes on a Plane, for Pete's sake. Basic. If anybody has never seen the movie Basic with him and Travolta, and a couple of others, you talk about a mind fuck. Basic is really, really good. And you'll have to watch it twice, and I'm not going to spoil why, but that's the whole point of Basic is you have to watch it twice because the second time through, you realize all you missed. But Pulp Fiction, of course, teamed with Tarantino here, and that movie couldn't miss with the level of talent. Speaking of voices, I know he didn't make the list. Ving Rhames in that movie, Pulp Fiction, as Marcellus Wallace. He didn't make the list, but think about Bruce Willis's voice. Somebody that you know. Anyway, very interesting. Terry, I know who numbers 2 and 1 are, unless all of our audience is delusional.
I think they've been mentioned tonight.
So would you show me Morgan Freeman for the win?
Number 2, Morgan Freeman. So he's played God and
he's great in the Shawshank Redemption here.
In Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
What else we got? Y'all are expecting me to just list everything out?
No, he was in Bruce Almighty, right? Where he was God?
Yes, he was God in Bruce Almighty.
I don't care what anybody says. I love that movie, but you guys know I love anything Steve Carell does. But wasn't he in a baseball movie?
Was he in a baseball movie? He
was
in Driving Miss Daisy. We don't need to forget about that.
Yeah, he was in Driving Miss Daisy. Sorry, ignore that. Do not attempt to travel unless you're under an evacuation order. Flash flood. Thank you so much, Aline. But yeah, here he's great in Shawshank Redemption, and this one really didn't quote put him on the map, but the story, obviously it's a Stephen King book from the 4 seasons?
4 seasons.
I think it was the 4 seasons where there's 4 books. One of them's At Pupil, the other one Shawshank Redemption, and then I forget the other 2.
Isn't Stand By Me one of them?
Might be.
But
don't get me lying on.
Else.
Yeah, don't get me lying live here on the air on TNA Top 10. But yeah, he played a judge, or he played a former advocate. Ashley Judge. Was it Double Jeopardy that he was in?
That movie was fantastic.
He was a drunk, remember? And he went and got drunk as the way that he got the information from the guy. And she's like, well, you need to go to bed. Quit drinking. She says, listen, I gave up X amount of sobriety. We might have one more drink. So he started pouring the booze. But yeah, Morgan Freeman,
Did he
fantastic.
play Alex Cross in all
He
those
does.
movies? Right.
Yes, he does in that's the James Patterson series
Right.
that I've been reading since 1997.
Same.
But Along Came a Spider, Kiss the Girls.
Yep.
Those are all Alex Cross movies that he
Very
brought to
good.
life. Even though in the books, as you know, Allison, it was Denzel, not Morgan Freeman, that supposedly Alex Cross looked like.
Yes,
But
Denzel. That's right.
Denzel Washington.
Wow.
But Terry, did we miss any of his important filmography?
So I'm looking through it, and he's got several things. I don't necessarily know how important of a role that he played in this. He's got a lot of stuff. Like he's got Julius Caesar, but he didn't play a prominent role. Of course, Driving Miss Daisy's listed. Glory from '89,
Yeah.
Civil War movie. Bonfire of the Vanities, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves,
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah, I forgot
Unforgiven.
that one.
Unforgiven. Yeah.
Oh, Unforgiven, he was really good. See, that's the problem is you start thinking, that's just like McConaughey. He was in the Dallas Friars Club or whatever, and
Right.
he lost all that weight to be the guy that, because it was about
Oh.
gay men who had AIDS, and he lost. You start naming the movies they're in, and you forget,
Yeah,
because like you just said, you just rattled off 5 or 6 of them
right.
that I hadn't thought about, but certainly knew Morgan Freeman was in, you know?
Well, I think
Well, I
we know
tried
who
to
number
prepare
one
myself
is.
for this next one,
Yeah. no crying.
especially considering we lost him. Number one, obviously, is James Earl
Ah.
Jones, and this guy's been in so many things. Darth Vader's voice, Field of Dreams. Here, this is a picture I chose.
People will come, Ray.
Yeah,
People will come, and they will talk about baseball. He has that whole monologue at the end of the movie. It's fantastic.
Coming to America. We mentioned
Oh,
it
God,
earlier,
he's
but
the
he
dad.
had a huge
He's the
role
king.
here.
Yeah, he's the king.
He was
He's
so good in
Mufasa.
that.
He is Mufasa.
Mufasa.
Come on. That is
Exactly.
to me. My heart breaks when I think about that. Oh.
But see, like I said, we tried to come up with a good list. We went to IMDb to see what all roles he had played. He didn't have quite as many as we would hope for to actually do a favorite roles list, which would have been great, but we would have given you like 12 choices for a top 10, you know.
Yeah,
And I don't
and
think
This
that
worked out
works.
just fine. I like that there were no duds on this list.
No, not at all.
no, and I wouldn't even argue with the order because
No.
James Earl Jones won. I mean, that one,
Right.
when you talk about Darth Vader, you talk about Mufasa, you think about the box office those movies alone made, and then you start talking about like this is he's the author, and he's dead, but he doesn't realize it. That's the best part here. Better Call My
Oh,
Dad.
we didn't even mention Sandlot.
Yeah, The Sandlot. Squints, I'd have got it for you. You know, I stand corrected. You're dead where you stand. And then Squints gets beat up. Yeah, they all beat Squints up because he was talking about how the Beast was going to eat them all. And yeah, that's Roscoe's favorite movie is The Sandlot
Oh.
because
All
of
right.
the Beast, Hercules.
All right.
Hercules, yeah. He thinks he's the Beast. Run him down, Terry. It's that
I'm going
time.
to run it down. Top 10 iconic Hollywood voices. Thanks for everybody that voted, as always. Number 10, Matthew McConaughey. Number 9, Jack Nicholson. Number 8, Liam Neeson. Number 7, Fran Drescher. Number 6, Robin Williams. Number 5, Christopher Walken. Number 4, Sean Connery. Number 3, Samuel L. Jackson. Number 2, Morgan Freeman. And number 1, James Earl Jones. And that's very fitting considering we lost him in the last week and the greatness and the legend that he is.
And he could be alive today, and I think he'd still be number one. I don't think that's a sentimental vote
Right.
by any means. I don't think that's a sentimental vote.
No, I don't.
As Terry said, thank you all for participating. You guys make this fun. You make it work. These are the ideas that we come up with, and we know we're not super geniuses, and y'all have better ideas than we do. So please, I am at 30-year fan. She is at Allison Faye. He is at TWeave79. Send us your thoughts about
Yeah.
what you want to see us rank.
And I have talked to a few people at work. I'm looking into writing an app that might make it a little easier. I'm tired of Peter's excuses.
Next time, it could be top deli sandwiches, not a Reuben. Okay,
I'm
not
tired
a Reuben.
excuses, and I'm tired of Facebook pulling my posts down when I try to share stuff.
Yeah, Facebook is stupid as we're
Ah.
on Facebook. Let me say in a loud, clear voice, Mark Zuckerberg, you make plenty of money.
Drop
Let
from
us
Facebook Live. Oh no.
let us share our video. Let us have fun and participate. All these people, by the way, are using your platform. So what is the problem here, sir? I want to know.
I
You're
will
a
also say when we started looking at, sometimes we get kind of the vague idea, and I start looking and I make a list, and I had a list of like 150 because you start looking at notable voices, you start getting cartoon voices,
Yep.
voice actors. And we said, okay, voice actors is a different list. We can do that later. You'll get your Tony the Tiger. You'll get your Transformers, Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime and
Same guy, by the way, but yeah. So you'll
What?
get all that later.
whatever.
What did you say? It's the same guy?
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the thing about voice actors.
Lee Marshall was
No.
Megatron.
Well, no. So here's what I'm going to say. Do you think the same guy's been doing Mickey Mouse for 100 years? Of
No,
course not.
of course not.
So it's not always one guy, but back in the 80s when they had the cartoon and the movies and stuff,
Yeah.
the guy that did Tony the Tiger
That's kind of cool.
back then also did
See, I like that kind of
I
stuff.
love Dad's defense
Optimus
there.
Prime.
Do you really think it's the same voice for 100 years?
No, Dad. No, I'm sorry.
But James Earl
That
Jones
also
was
makes it more
93,
difficult.
so it could have been
Yeah.
close.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's run it down, Terry.
I did run it down.
Oh,
Run it down.
did he?
She's
Where
not
is
paying
it?
attention.
I'm
She's not
What we
paying
are going to run down, though, is if I can click my
Yes.
button correctly, what's
Ram
happening on the network this week?
Woohoo.
Wrestling and More suffered a loss this week by relationship, and TNA Top 10 does send our condolences out to Timmy C. Sorry about your grandmother. It's public information, Allison. I know that you may not have seen the text. I don't know if you did or not.
No.
I thought I told you all I was going to mention that tonight. Again, we have fun with Tim. I will never be the most out-of-pocket person in our group chat as long as he's in it. Thank God for small favors. But in all seriousness, we know what it's like to deal with somebody passing away. And we pass on our condolences. And we mention that, of course, because Filter Free Podcast will be off this week. Timmy was taking care of family business, which is far more important than any podcast any of us want to hear, listen to, or produce. And apparently our friends on Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave will be off this week as well, kind of doing a reboot. They've got a new schedule, a new setup, a new format, but not a new format is the wrong way to say it. It's two of them now, not three. So they've gone to a two-man booth hosting the show. So they've got to get that sort of thing sorted out. And, of course, everybody has lives, families, grandchildren, children, sporting events, things you want to do, scheduling. And, none of us are getting rich doing this. So that's why we're going to do it when we can do it and have fun when we can do it. And when it becomes too much of a job, guess what? We're going to quit doing it.
So get your ideas in now if
Yes,
you want to
hurry
see something.
up.
You
That's
never
what he's
know
saying.
when I just say, I can't do it
That's it.
anymore.
We're done.
And also, let's mention this because Terry loves when I say this while we're winding things down. We will, next week, for the very first time, second time, I guess, have a guest on TNA Top 10. We'll talk more about it next hour. But the man I harass about his love of World Class Championship Wrestling, by the way, if you're a member of Patreon, $5 gets you in. That's all it costs. It pays the StreamYard fee, guys. Dave is talking about World Class Championship Wrestling. That's Pondwater Dave and Tim. And they're going to talk about the Von Erichs still fighting with the Freebirds in 1983. But Pondwater will be joining us. Tim will be joining us later in the season, and we will talk more details on that in the next hour of the show. But if you want a belly laugh with me, Terry, and Pondwater, and Allison trying to keep it together next week, I promise you we're going to have some fun as he tries to tell us why Alabama is a superior football team to Georgia. So
There may be some thoughts on that in
All
the next
right.
hour for sure.
I'm
after
sure
this
there
week.
will be. I've got some.
Yeah.
So thank you, Carla, very much. I saw
Thank
that
you.
comment.
Thanks
It was-
everybody that joins in, participates. Any feedback is always appreciated. Another great show, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for voting, and it's been fun. Any
You
final
wrapped me
thoughts
up
from
early
either of you?
before- We got 5 minutes, so you wrap me up on the wrestling before
Well, no, we can actually start the next show on time. If we
Yeah. So our 5-minute break can be leading into the correct time to start the next one.
And we need a full 5 because Terry finished that liquor drink before
Yes.
we hit record.
Only final thoughts I have. Family is what you make. To my adopted daughter, Lauren, I love you and I miss you and I can't wait to see you again.
Excellent.
Indeed. Thank you all very much. I'm good, Terry. Let's go home.
I gotta remember which buttons I gotta click here.
We're gonna be gone 5 minutes. Terry's making a liquor drink. I'm finishing dinner and drinking some coffee and running this dog out from underneath this table. But we'll be back to talk football and Florida State suckage. Terry, let's go.
All right. As always, love your people. Tell them you love them. Make it weird. Thanks for coming, everybody. See you next time. Hello and welcome to TNA Top 10 Football Edition. I'm T Weave, your host. With me, as always, is your other host, Andrew, and we're going to talk Week 3 college football and look forward to Week 4. It's getting good, Andrew.
We getting ready. We getting warmed up. We got a few surprises this week. I found Terry for the benefit of our viewers because I've already told you and our listeners, which we love and appreciate. I have found that I'm a lot better on the program than I am on the ESPN app because we pick games that actually matter to talk about, discuss, and then predict. And ESPN app that I am currently losing, I am 16-14, and we'll get to that later in the show. I am just above 500. I'm going to tell you right now, they have, if you look at this week's games as to what they're having us predict winners and losers for, Terry, it's not exciting. We're going to have a lot more predicting winners.
Sorry, I didn't respond quickly because I just realized I forgot to load the slides for the graphics.
That's okay. I'll filibuster while you load.
So I will do this.
I'm talking. You work. I got this. So
It's
anyway,
live. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is what happens when we produce live on the air. Terry's doing TNA Top 10. We're ready to rock and roll. But here's the thing about these predictions. Other than Florida State and thinking that Kentucky was going to get blown out by Georgia because of the way they played ball, I have been damn near perfect on this show with what I've said analysis-wise when I'm not just screwing around yelling "Go Big Red" for Nebraska. I don't have a clue as to who the hell is going to win between ECU and Appalachian State. And I live in the state. And I don't care. I don't care. But I happen to pick that one right, I think. App State pulled it off.
Oh, is that one? That is one of them we picked in the.
Yeah.
So here's your reminder. Here's the thing. I'm not going out of my way to remind my competition to pick their games for the week. So don't expect me to put any kind of reminder on social media. If you joined, you're an adult, probably. It is your responsibility to remember that.
That is debatable when you're talking to me, sir, as was well established on this show.
Well, you're an adult. You may not act like an adult.
I just don't act like it. Sophomore class field trip. We're 15 forever. So not 15 and forever. But are we good with the slides?
The slides are what they are. They are there. I put some extra stuff because you added some games that I had not created graphics for, so I had to come home from work and hurriedly put those in. But I did it. I'm a team
Well, that
player
wasn't
here.
the question. I meant, did you have them in the show now so we can move forward?
Oh, you should be able to see them. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, the
They
group
are.
chat. I can't see them because I don't have authority. You and Allison, for whatever reason, do not trust me with the clicker, despite the fact I host the Medusa podcast every other Tuesday.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? First game we're going to talk about is UNLV and Kansas.
Whoa. Back up. Back
What?
up. Did you see the notes? I made notes.
Yes.
We have opening stories. Take that graphic
Then
down.
get to them. Get to them.
What are you doing to me? Okay, real quick. This is how the conversation goes before we get on the air. You all just get to see it live. Opening stories, Terry. Oregon, Tennessee.
I'll sit back and I'll listen to you.
No, you're good. Oregon, Tennessee, Notre Dame roll. You questioned whether Oregon State and Oregon, you thought it'd be a field goal game. I thought it would be a blowout. Oregon runs the damn ball, and all of a sudden they win 49-14, and their defense showed up after weeks in hiding. I don't know where it happened. I don't know. But Oregon is back. Tennessee beat the crap out of insignificant team number 3. And according to our favorite baker on Facebook, Mr. Carl, they are winning the national championship as we speak. And Notre Dame, after a lackluster performance against Northern Illinois, scored more points in the team's history than they have, I guess, in over 100 years, something like that. They put 66 on Purdue after not being able to catch a cold last week. So
who was it that scored? South Alabama scored 87 this weekend.
And was it enough to win?
Yeah. Yeah. So they were 80 at the end of the third quarter and just scored a touchdown in the fourth, but 87-13 or something like that. I don't remember who they played.
Two more things and we'll move on. Arch Manning took over for an injured Quinn Ewers in the Texas game, threw 5 touchdowns. They weren't playing anybody. No one get excited. Quinn Ewers' injury is not as bad as they thought it would be. They think he'll miss the Louisiana Monroe game. Big deal. And then they have an off week, and then they have Oklahoma. So,
And we'll get into that too. We're gonna. My
Quinn will be
graphics are good this week.
oh,
Let
I
me
got
tell
you. And then Michigan benches their quarterback after 3, Terry. 1, 2, 3 interceptions to Gus
3.
Malzahn's former team, Arkansas State. 3 interceptions to Arkansas State. Michigan has announced that the backup will start this weekend against USC, which we will get to on your stories. Last thing, just to get everybody primed, because you know I am. Texas jumps Georgia in the AP poll for number 1. And that's where we are this week. Before
And
we get to
Arch
the-
Manning also ran the ball. As Peyton says, his father's speed skipped a generation, and it landed on Arch. So we got a little taste of that this week. But he's probably going to go back on the bench after dominating. I think it was UTSA, UT San Antonio.
Yeah, he's going to play against Monroe, Louisiana Monroe, more than likely. The abdominal strain wasn't as bad. I had speculated in a group chat that I'm in that, look, how are you going to take if Arch does what he's supposed to do, and it was several weeks, how are you going to put Ewers back in, you know? But if it's only a game or two, that conversation's a lot easier to have.
Especially if they're playing nobody still.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they played Michigan, obviously, but.
Yeah. But so let's go into Kansas dropping the
Can I
ball.
flip the slide now? Can I
I've got the stage set. UNLV is 3-0. I watched this game at the gym. It was on Friday. We had thought Kansas was going to be a team in the Big 12 that could compete. Buddy, they're looking like the Jayhawks of old that are a basketball school. UNLV just relentless with their defense. They only let them, complete 50% of the passes. 2 turnovers. Turnovers matter, as we've talked
Turnovers
about.
killed them in this game, yeah.
And the second half, Kansas was held to a field goal. And, UNLV only wins 23-20, but UNLV is not supposed to be able to even play with Kansas. Let's face it. They're
Well,
not.
if the Pac-12 is looking to add teams, and that's a story we didn't really get into, UNLV's sitting there. That's a great team to go after.
Yeah, they're in the Mountain West, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're about to rob half of the Mountain West.
Yeah. So this is a great football team. Very well coached, very well disciplined, and I think that this is going to be a team to watch. They're not going to beat anybody that we care about too much, Terry.
Right.
But UNLV could win 8 or 9 games pretty easily.
They're going to be like Fresno State was 15 years ago.
No. Next up,
sad to say, but Florida State drops to 0-3. But I saw this, I saw Memphis on the schedule after they dropped the first 2 games, and I'm like, Memphis is not who you want to play for that 3rd game after you've dropped 2, and it happened. Florida State could not get any offense going.
So in a loud, clear voice, I want to apologize to our audience for thinking that Florida State was going to win the ACC championship.
I did too.
This is a reevaluation of Florida State. And in all seriousness, 2 fumbles and interception, DJ not being able to push the ball down the field, 1.5 yards a carry, Terry. Your offensive line is not winning the battle on the line of scrimmage.
No.
They weren't very good on defense, in my opinion. Dave said he thought the defensive line looked better this time around than the offensive line. That's our buddy Dave in the HSV. Huge Florida State guy, big contributor. Very disappointed this year with their 0-3 start, and I get it.
We got the sound effect. It's been a while. We haven't been throwing them in lately. Thanks.
I get it, though, why he's so disappointed. But Florida State, for all the money, all the talent, the NIL, the 5-star recruits, all of the bluster after last year that we belong, we're entitled to that 4-team playoff.
Right.
You certainly have done yourselves no favors. Thoughts and prayers to Dave and the HSV.
That came from Talking Wrestling.
Talking Wrestling with Palm Water. I know who's controlling that account tonight. But no, in all seriousness, Florida State can still win the ACC championship, believe it or not.
They got to figure out how to move the ball.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
giving it
that
to the
they
other
beat
team.
Clemson though now, buddy. I
Oh.
just this team, the way they're playing with bad offensive line play, no rushing game, and a quarterback who is marginal at best. And I believe I said he was marginal at best when Dabo fired his ass 2 years ago. Who is worse, Mississippi State or Mississippi State?
It's definitely
Without
Mississippi State.
Without
I mean,
question. It's
Florida
both.
State's not doing well, but Mississippi State is horrific.
Talk about laying an egg. They lost to Toledo or something, and they lost like what 41 to
Bad.
17 or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't close. But the other problem I have with this, Terry, let's finish up the Florida State conversation real
Mhm.
quick, and I want to get your thoughts. This is at home. They
Yeah.
weren't playing in Memphis. This
That's
is a
what
Doak
I thought
Stadium.
might do it for them, but it didn't.
I mean, in Florida, in Tallahassee, this is not good. This is not good at all. And they
I
have.
think they probably have a good enough defense to compete, but this offense ain't doing it.
Well, and they have had the benefit for years of having Jimbo Fisher, his recruits, Bobby Bowden before him. Let's not talk about Willie Taggart because he was awful.
Right.
But they had the benefit of having offensive recruits that all went to the NFL. They don't have that this year. You can't point to me somebody on Florida State's offense that I would say, oh, yeah, that's a round one pick. Definitely. And the problem is, as Dave pointed out when he joined us on the show, that's what everybody thought they were going to be. And we're not the only ones that were wrong. There are people
Right.
that get paid a lot of money on ESPN to talk about football, and they didn't get it right either. So definitely Mississippi State is worth. Now, if that was a Florida question, which we're going to get to, Terry, thoughts on this one, and then let's click to the next game because I think I put 10 of them in here for us.
I don't know. I think 0-3 is not great. You know, this was not the team you wanted to play after going 0-2 to start out. And then you're gonna start out with some ACC competition, and it doesn't start out easy. We'll talk about that game later and talk about what we think is going to happen, but it's not looking good. There's no easy win coming up.
Nope, not at all. They got to get it cleaned up. They got to start playing football because they have championship caliber or suspected championship caliber recruits and transfers, and they're not getting the job done in Tallahassee.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We got Alabama headed to Wisconsin, and just, it was just grind it out and win it and continually keep your foot on their throats the whole game and don't give up much on defense. Alabama doesn't look much different this year than they've looked, honestly.
Couple points on this game. Tyler Van Dyke, first series out of the game for Wisconsin, the Miami transfer. He is out. His knee, again, another knee injury. And that happened on the opening drive, I believe, or the second drive. It was early in the game. Now, Alabama, because we're going to have a really good football game in 12 days when Alabama plays Georgia. But Alabama's offense is very, very, very dangerous. They can go 5 wide, and you still have to account for Jalen Monroe. They can play double tight formation. They can run the power I. They can run veer, as you called it earlier, meaning option football. They can go over the top. He runs the mid routes. You can run the wheel. You can run the crosser. You can run the slant. Alabama has a pro-style offense. The Kalen DeBoer effect is in full force there in Tuscaloosa. The defense did enough here in Wisconsin. Camp Randall Stadium is somebody who's watched this game a long time, meaning Wisconsin. Nebraska gets their ass kicked every time they go to Camp Randall. But here in Wisconsin, you don't have the benefit of a White. You didn't have, I just lost his name, Melvin Gordon, running the ball down your throat. Russell Wilson as a quarterback here. But Alabama proved they are a top 5 team in the country this week, Terry. And they proved offensively they can hang with the Tennessees and the Ole Misses of the SEC because, again, he can go from double tight to 3 wide to 5 wide. And if you're playing man-to-man 5 wide, you still have to account for the damn quarterback because he'll burn your ass with his legs. So they are a complete offense at Alabama. They also got both of their tackles back. They hadn't played all year with both tackles in position, dinged up injuries, etc. You get that offensive line gelled together. You get them believing in Milroe and what he's doing for the offense. Roll Tide and Roll Tide all day long.
And Georgia's not making it look like they're gonna absolutely be the team, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But obviously, we talked about Texas being great. Alabama is, we don't have to put that on there. Alabama's still there. Obviously, Georgia going to Kentucky, like I said, we'll talk about in a minute, didn't look fantastic in top of the conference, and there's plenty of teams to compete with that. So if they don't show up, teams like this are going to take over. Why don't we move to the next game, and that is Texas A&M at Florida, and final score's 33-20, but it was not that close. That's trash time points for Florida in the second half. Texas A&M put it on them in the swamp.
Billy Napier will not survive this season. This is the second game that you and I circled on the calendar in our preseason discussion that Florida had an opportunity to win. They are running out of games that they can actually win, Terry. UCF is undefeated, by the way. Old Gus has got it going on with his with KJ Jefferson there at Central Florida. A&M dominated all facets of this game. Offense, defense, special teams. Look at the graphic down at the bottom. 3 interceptions. We talked about this last week. This will be a recurring theme, I'm sure, throughout the football season.
Yeah.
You turn the ball over, you're not going to win. Here's the other thing. In the SEC, 52 rushing yards. Or 52. 52 yards. 2.1.
52 yards, yeah.
2.1 a carry. Embarrassing.
It is.
Embarrassing.
At home in one of the toughest stadiums to play in. It has not been that tough lately because they're just not the team to make it tough.
No, and A&M, got into that dogfight with Notre Dame and couldn't close it out in their own stadium. They go on the road, Florida, big signature win for Elko, get the thing going the right way. But 5.6 yards a rush, 178 yards passing, Terry. I mean, A&M is not the cat's meow of the SEC, but that's a dangerous football team if they can continue to play like that.
Well, A&M, they've had recruits come in. Now, they had some guys leave when Jimbo got fired and Elko came in, but they've still got some studs. And if he can pull them together, they've got some firepower there. But
and as they're not afraid to tell anybody, not to interrupt you, is they're not afraid to tell anybody the 12th man will just pull the checkbook out and they'll write the number. What's the number? What number do you need? I mean, that's what happens when there's old oil money. It's about like the Oregon guy from Nike. He said, "Hey, what's the number? What number do you need for NIL money? We'll get everybody here you need to win a championship."
Yeah,
so,
I need Apple to do that for Auburn, but
Terry, who's up next?
The next game is LSU at South Carolina, and it looked like Carolina was going to run away with this at one point, but LSU stormed back.
Yeah. You could
see turnovers
this
all over the place.
Yeah, this was pretty sloppy in Columbia, South Carolina, home of the game. Cox. I mean, again, 400 yards offense. LSU's defense is and don't get me wrong, the Gamecocks offense is much improved, but this is not a top-tier offense that LSU is going to see this year. Their defense supposedly was better this year than they were last year. That's a lie. And Nussmeier is not Daniels, who, by the way, won his game yesterday with the help of a kicker who went 7 for 7 for Washington, kicking field goals. So I watched a lot of this game at work with the rain and the storm coming in and all that crap. LSU Brian Kelly's going to have an offense, but they're not going to play defense. They did force 2 fumbles and an interception, but I think the Gamecocks are a team that could be dangerous again in the SEC. But don't get it twisted. I'm not thinking they're going to compete for a SEC title or whatever. These are 6-6, 7-5 teams, Terry, but there's a lot of them in the SEC right now.
There are, and they can find the right Saturday to pick somebody off that's above them. It happens.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about Kentucky, and they're in the same category as both, A&M and the Gamecocks.
Well, look, 243 rushing yards for South Carolina. I mean, they were able to run the ball well, but if you need to come back. not being able to pass is not helping.
Well, and the kicker missed a tying field goal to send it to overtime. So,
Yeah.
it was a special teams play that didn't get the game locked down, although they had opportunity to close it down and they let LSU breathe. And like you said, Terry, in the SEC, you better have a killer instinct and you better be able to put someone to sleep. And that's all there is to it.
All right, let's move elsewhere in the SEC as Boston College comes to Missouri. And I believe BC had a little lead early, but Missouri did it. Got them by a
Tigers
lot of yards and did not turn the ball over. And we talk about the same things. Play defense, hold on to the football, and win the
they ended
line
up
of scrimmage.
settling for a couple field goals. Missouri did. In fact, I think they went 2 field goals in the second quarter and a touchdown with a 2-point conversion. That's how they got to 14 in the second quarter. They did not score 2 touchdowns. I don't
Okay.
recall. 440. So their offense is still good. No turnovers. Very clean. Boston College comes to play though. Missouri's defense shut down that run game that tore the Seminoles apart on the defensive line. But look at your passing line, 249 yards. So if you focus on one, sometimes you give up the other. But the 2 interceptions certainly hurt BC. But BC wasn't supposed to win this game. They weren't even supposed to be in this game. The line on the game was 16 and a half. They lose by 6.
Right.
And that's with a first-year head coach. Granted, he's been everywhere and he's done everything, but he didn't have his recruits necessarily, at least a year or 2 into the system. So they're going to be very good. Boston College is going to be one of those teams I think compete in the ACC. If we're going to do a reevaluation of that entire conference at some point, they should be in the conversation.
Well, I mean, you're right. If we reevaluated today, I mean, who's looking great in the ACC? Florida State's who we both picked to win, and that's obviously not who looks the best.
Right.
Clemson, Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe BC is one of the top teams. Georgia Tech still looks good. They have a loss, but they still look pretty good.
Right. Yeah, and that's where it becomes that wide open thing. Or does Clemson just finally decide to find who they are and go to work?
Oh, Miami.
That's the other one.
That's the cream of the crop right now.
Yeah. Cat's ass for sure.
And I even forgot about them sitting here talking about it.
Yep. Well, they were in the big or
they're a Big East team.
So long. Yeah, they were in the Big East.
I'm old. They're a Big East team.
That's a basketball
move along.
Tell them, Terry.
West
that's a basketball
Virginia and Pitt, big game, big rivalry here, and Pittsburgh walks away with 38-34 win. And that'll make Mike Bober happy that we're talking about Pittsburgh because I got a DM from him saying we need to give Pittsburgh a little more love this week.
Another 1 score into the game.
Yep.
Forced turnover. Pitt wins the game. And Pitt was one of those in the ACC that I honestly picked to finish toward the bottom because they have not been good in recent years. And I understand.
We expected West Virginia to be pretty good. And
and they are, and they turn the ball over. This is between this game and Penn State. Is that 6 turnovers now in 2 games?
Lot,
if not 7. So, you start turning the ball over like that. We talk about it every week. You don't win ball games. You do not win football games. You turn the ball over.
Right. Because, Pittsburgh didn't run the ball well. They got 78 yards, less than 3 yards a carry. They were one-dimensional. But you turn the ball over twice. Yeah, they didn't have to run the ball, I guess. If you hand them the ball, it'll work.
And close all the way as you would expect with these 2 teams based on the rivalry.
Yeah, they were tied at the end of the third quarter. Yep. And Pittsburgh got 2 touchdowns, and West Virginia got 10 points in the 4th.
Yep. Good football game.
All right, here we go. Georgia at Kentucky. This was a big shocker. We know that Stoops has these guys coached up, but Kentucky doesn't have nearly as many studs normally, you would think. They play good defense, and that's what happened here. They played very good defense, and Georgia got lucky to walk away with a win here.
Georgia was still bigger, stronger, meaner, faster, more physically imposing. They should be. The talent level's there. You won't look at a box score and think that Georgia had a much better football team that night, Terry. But they did. They didn't execute. They didn't complete. They didn't do what Georgia has done for years, and that's play to their standard. Now, it's a little unfair because it is the first SEC road game, and they historically are bad in the first SEC road games.
Yep.
And Mark Stoops has Dabo's number, if anybody does. Or not Dabo, excuse me. Kirby's number.
Kirby.
He has Kirby's number if anybody has Kirby's number because he knows what they're going to do. You know why? Because he's doing the same thing in Kentucky. They play the same sort of defense, the same sort of offense. They try to do the same things. The Kentucky quarterback, whose name escapes me, was the Georgia backup last year. So, I mean, they know the tendencies. They had the scouting report on everybody. And Carson Beck isn't doing anything different than he did last year.
Brock Vandegrift.
Vandegrift was the backup to Carson Beck and the one who won the championship. So, anyway, great game. If you like good defense, I caught the end of it because I was preoccupied with my football team winning.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I know the beauty of Hulu is I can rewind and watch and go back. But I'm very shocked Georgia didn't win this by 30. And that was one of the things that you and I both predicted is they were going to blow Kentucky out because they are so much more physically imposing. They're such a bigger, stronger, more established veteran group. Stoops has his number. They get out of there with a 1-point win, and it cost them the number 1 rank in the country.
At least for the AP poll. Who knows for the TNA poll? We don't know that yet.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm talking about the AP riders. Texas jumps, of course, and Texas played Michigan, but Georgia beat Clemson. So is Clemson and Michigan on the same plane of existence? Because if that's the case, Georgia whooped Clemson's ass. And I'm not saying Texas didn't do the same thing to Michigan. The difference, I guess, would be Michigan was at the big house, and Georgia and Clemson were in Atlanta, which might as well be between the hedges there in Athens.
I know this gets picky, but Michigan won by, 10 points against Arkansas State this weekend?
They did.
So we don't really know where they fall at this point. We know they got trashed by Texas. Yeah.
I don't think they're a good football team. And I told you I didn't think they'd be a good football team. But we'll see how that plays out because we didn't think Washington was a good football team either. So.
Well, this year, I mean, you mentioned the Oregon State-Oregon game. We also had Washington State, and Washington
Apple Cup,
State
baby.
won that. Yeah. So that was good that they had both of those this weekend.
Yep. The Civil War and the Apple Cup. Oh,
all right.
goodness.
So let me get ready to talk about this. New Mexico comes to Auburn. Hank Brown is the starter for Auburn. So here's what I don't get. So last week, Auburn plays California and played great defense, honestly, made some adjustments in the second half and locked it down. And the quarterback could not quit throwing it to the other team. So then this week they make a quarterback change, and Hank Brown came in and did a great job, but the secondary couldn't stop crap. And our running backs fumbled. Now, they ran the ball well. They were really good helping Hank Brown come in. Playing against New Mexico. This is not an SEC game. End up winning 45-19. They gave up a lot of yards for those 19 yards, but they locked it down when they got in the red zone, so that's probably the kind of defense we're going to see. They were missing Cam Coleman, the biggest receiver, the true freshman. So that hurt, but the passing game looked good. The running game looked good other than the 2 fumbles. The defense needs to get better, and we're about to see Arkansas next week. And if the defense doesn't get better, it's not going to be good.
Bobby Petrino is going to shred you guys.
Yeah, we can only hope for a shootout.
Yeah,
but we need our weapons to come back. But like I said, Hank Brown got in there and he did great. He made good decisions. He made good throws. It started getting rainy. You see that they only scored 3 in the second quarter. It got really rainy at that point. So his passes were off a little bit. Probably blame it on that. But I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to tell, like with a team like this, because you hear, oh, they've got a really good offense for a non-power conference team. But what does that even mean?
Right.
Auburn's got a habit of making quarterbacks look very good. And that's kind of what they did this week.
Maybe undeservingly.
Yeah, undeservingly. But this team's coached by Brock Mendenhall. Who was
Bronco.
the
Yeah, Bronco.
Bronco. I say Brock. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall. But he coached BYU for like a decade. For those that
And he
that
went to
remember him.
Virginia too.
Went to Virginia, and then he ended up at New Mexico.
Yeah. So my thought looking at this only is that obviously Auburn's offense can ball, but if your defense is stopping points, but you're
Yeah.
bending. The problem is you can't give a good team like a Tennessee or an
Right.
Alabama or a Ole Miss an opportunity like that to score.
Or even in Arkansas. I mean,
Yeah. And
Arkansas
I mean,
is going to be capable of doing
I
it.
was teasing you about Bobby Petrino shredding you, but you guys saw what the offense. You saw what offense he called, and whether you like Bobby Petrino or not, and all the shenanigans and everything, the man knows offensive
He
football,
does.
and he knows how to exploit weaknesses in other teams. So I agree with you, Terry. I would be a little bit concerned about Arkansas. Try to get some of that cleaned up. 2 fumbles. Is that the rain, or is that?
I don't know. I think we got some running backs that fumble the ball. I mean, this is something like I'd made comments online about they need to run the ball a lot more because Jarquez Hunter, preseason All SEC first team selection by the coaches, and coming into this game he had 16 carries, and I said that's just ridiculous. But then the response I got was he can't hold on to the ball. But these are not both his fumbles. It was one from him and one from another running back. But we got to hold on to the ball better. We're really giving it up a lot. But we did get 2 interceptions. Our defense has not been getting the ball, and it did in this game. Maybe it'll pick up a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully so.
Well, let's move on to the other one, and I'll sit back and listen and see what you got to say here.
Yeah,
How did it go?
Nebraska 34-3 against UNI. I will say UNI's offensive line much better football team than Colorado. They were ready. They played. This score does not look like it. But the first possession that ended in the only 3 points UNI scored, they had the ball for 11 minutes. It's a long damn time to have the football.
Jeez.
And they got 3 out of it. So
11 minutes. That was a
11
long
minutes.
drive.
Nebraska did not blitz. They played base defense the entire time. They showed nothing for Illinois coming in later this week, for consecutive sellout number 400 in the 402. But Nebraska's offense, Raiola scores on the first 3 drives. They go for it on 4th and 3rd and miss. They miss a field goal opportunity. They left, Terry, probably 10 to 17 points on the board, honestly. But Matt Rule wanted them to be in situations like 4th and 3. We'll go get the 3rd down or go get the 3 yards because our defense isn't gonna do anything. And it's like he said at halftime. He said, "I was very calm. I just told him, look, you're not going to lose this game." But the tackling was very poor from the defense in the first half, and I'll get to that part in the preview for Illinois. But yeah, I mean, Dylan Raiola, 20 for 26. He was 11 for 12 in the first quarter or first half, or maybe through the second. He missed 1 pass and scored 21 points. The first 21 points, he was 11 for 12. 142, 6.5 rushing, Terry. Everybody's going to take that all day long. You're going to take that. And one of the things that Matt Rule says is he likes to get to lead and then be boring in the second half. Well, Nebraska's defense had a goal line stand, second team in the 4th quarter, did not allow UNI to get into the end zone. They also scored with Heinrich Harburg in the second half when Raiola was done for the night. This is a very capable football team that looks far different than it did last year. The 1 interception there was a contested ball that I thought tie goes to the runner. The referees called it an interception, but it was a deep pass 50 yards down the field. So it was basically the effect of a punt. particularly when you're playing Nebraska's defense. So anyway, it was a blowout like ball game. Nebraska left a lot of things on the table. They didn't do a lot of good things. They need to get cleaned up for Friday night.
All right. Yeah. But they are in the top 25 these days.
Number 22 in both polls.
Well, that's awesome. We're looking to see this game coming up because Illinois is looking pretty good this year.
Yeah, they're mirror images of each other, which, like I say, we'll get to the preview. I don't want to take up too much more time on these reviews because I think we've gone a little bit long, but it's our show.
Then why don't we get to the Week 3 top 10? And thanks for everybody that voted. As always, we keep saying it, but it is a little bit of a struggle to get the poll out to people that don't already follow us. I think Twitter's a decent way to do that. Facebook has been a difficulty, and they don't like us because we put things out there and they take it down. They think we're breaking rules. So screw Facebook, but thanks for everybody that gets to it and votes. We'll keep trying different methods to get the information to you. But why don't we go ahead and talk about number 10, and we'll see the little extra effort I put in the graphics this week. Number 10, Oklahoma. And this might be a little hard to read. It's pretty small, but I'm putting the whole season schedule in there now. Oklahoma 3-0. They've beat Temple, Houston, and Tulane, but now they've got Tennessee coming to town this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to get too far into my commentary on that, but Oklahoma, the 10 spot, probably as high as they need to be and as high as they'll be all season. And I will explain that here in a minute. But the offensive line of Oklahoma had better figure out how to stop Tennessee's pass rush. Because the deal with Tennessee, Terry. You better match them score for score. They're going to make it a basketball game.
They're another team that could have scored triple digits this week.
Correct. So that's my thought on Oklahoma. Great team, great history, great program. Love the rivalry. Just their offensive line is the problem for them right now.
But, this will be an opportunity. Some of these teams haven't really played much of anybody, and this is one of them. But like you said, we'll talk more about that when we get to the preview. Number 9, Oregon, after showing up at Oregon State and winning 49-14. They struggled a little bit in the first couple of weeks. They get a bye week this week.
I figured they'd bounce a little bit higher than this based on that shelling that they put on Oregon State, and they did it in Corvallis.
Wow.
They ran the ball, and guess what happens, Terry, when you run the ball? You don't put your quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, in a situation to get sacked. So,
right. And you keep running the clock.
Yeah, it's been the problem. So good for them. Good bounce back. They get the break, and then they've got UCLA, who I think will be the doormat of the Big Ten. If I'm honest with you, it's going to be UCLA or Washington.
Because Michigan State this year is looking pretty good.
Yeah,
they have really bounced back.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith's a good coach. They lost a lot, and they're dealing with some legal stuff. But anyway. I think we can move on to number 8, but I mean, I figured Oregon be a little higher than this, but it doesn't offend me.
But I mean, when you start looking at the other 8, you're like, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm with you. They're probably a little bit higher, but I think that they're going to have some opportunities to really prove it out, especially when it comes to October 12th against Ohio State. That'll be a game to look forward to.
In Eugene.
That's right. So
that's going to make that interesting.
Number 8, Missouri. So they have, first couple of games, they dominated lesser teams. And, we talked about that Boston College game. So that was a big win. Could have been a loss. Boston College came in there looking to beat them. Now they got a Vanderbilt team that after this weekend doesn't look nearly as good as we thought they might be after losing to Georgia State.
They lost 12 points on the field. I like Missouri's offense. I like their defense. They're a well-disciplined, well-coached team. They're also playing in Columbia again.
Yep.
I have that correct, right? That's in Columbia again.
It is.
home field advantage matters, and that's going to be another theme that we talk about these weeks. I think when Georgia goes to Austin, I think when you see the Georgia Alabama game, I think it's in Tuscaloosa. May have that wrong. I know when the Iron Bowl happens, Auburn and Alabama, it's in Tuscaloosa.
Right.
Home field advantage is Illinois versus Nebraska this week. It's in Lincoln, and it's going to be sellout number 400. We'll get to that in the preview. But I mean, the home field advantage is going to matter. So I'm thinking Missouri's going to have a nice bounce back here because fucking Vandy sucks.
They do, and it's like, and we had a little bit of hope for them after they beat Virginia Tech. They ended up 2-0, and then they get beat by Georgia State, and it's like, nope, they're the same old Vandy.
Nope, same old Vandy.
But I will say they're better than Mississippi State probably.
Oh, now that's the thing. Mississippi State might be the new Vandy this year, but anyway, we're not going to be ringing any cowbells, I don't think, down there in Mississippi. Number 7,
Miami.
The U.
So they put it on Florida in the Swamp, and they've had a couple of cupcakes since then. They head to South Florida this week, and South Florida is one of those teams that could sneak up on you. I don't remember if this is in our preview, honestly. Is this in our preview?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is. So, Miami looks real deal. I mean,
yeah, their quarterback's already being put on the Heisman watch, the Davy Camp watch, all of that stuff. He hasn't played a real pressure defense yet. We saw that South Florida played well against Alabama early.
Yeah.
And probably undeservingly. Let's be honest, Alabama should have never let South Florida stay in that game.
Right.
No disrespect to South Florida, but you just don't have the talent that Alabama does. I don't think the U is a better football team than Alabama, but home field advantage or not, Miami probably continues to roll.
Yeah, I think Miami and Tennessee, to me, even though, Miami went to the Swamp and dominated Florida, okay, but
Big
we're
time.
seeing that Florida's not much. Miami and Tennessee may be similar teams this year to me, where it's going to be a couple of weeks. Well, I guess Tennessee's going to have Oklahoma this week, but the first few weeks they just dominated teams, and we're really not going to know until about a month into the season what they really have.
Well, and no disrespect to either South Florida, Virginia Tech, or California, but then you got Louisville and Florida State back-to-back, Duke, Georgia Tech. I mean, Miami has a very winnable schedule to get to the ACC championship without, too many injuries and that sort of thing. So we'll see.
Right.
I know that pains us both for me to say that out loud, Terry. Miami.
Absolutely. That's why I forgot about them earlier. I don't like to admit it. Number 6. Oh, and I just changed the pages on the notes instead of the slides. Tennessee, and there they are. Number 6 in our poll. Maybe should be a little bit higher, but that's debatable. But like I said, they played UT Chattanooga, NC State, and Kent State, and totally blasted every one of these teams. But
Let's
they
see
head
what
to
they
Oklahoma
do.
this week.
Let's see what they do against Oklahoma and Norman.
Yeah.
I think Tennessee's offense is the real deal. Their defense seems to be pretty good. I mean, held NC State to 10. I'm not giving Chattanooga or Kent State anything. Okay, nothing. But NC State was a team we talked about with the potential to be dangerous in the ACC.
Right.
I don't know. Tennessee dog walked them, and it
They did.
wasn't close. And then you look at this schedule: Oklahoma, Arkansas. They've got a capability. If you want to get into a shootout, Tennessee's the wrong football team to do that with. Florida, nah, bye.
At Georgia this year, yeah.
Alabama and Georgia, those are going to be the key matchups you see Tennessee play this year.
Yep.
They don't get you guys at Auburn, Vandy, and Mississippi State. We talked about Kentucky could give them a little bit of a fight, but Tennessee's got 4 games left on that schedule.
Right.
Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky.
That's right. They look like they're geared up to win at least 2 of those 4.
Because I think Arkansas can't keep up with the pace of a Tennessee.
No,
That's
not at
all
all.
I'm saying, Terry. That's all.
Not
I'm
at all.
No.
But we'll see. Like you said, we haven't seen them play anybody with a pulse yet. But this
Oklahoma's
week
got
we
a
will.
pulse, and it's in Norman, so we'll see.
This is going to be exciting. Let's go to number 5, and that is Ole Miss.
Another team.
And they are another team that hasn't really played much, and they're not playing much this week either because they're hosting Georgia Southern.
It'll be over before the second quarter. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be
So
50
we're
to
not
0,
gonna know.
some obnoxious number. And until you get to Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, you get those 3, 2 of which are away. We're not going to know anything about Ole Miss other than we know they can score, and score.
But I've compared them to Penn State
Yep.
in that they are a dominant team that always loses the big game. This is his opportunity to win some of these big games, and but there's so much competition in the SEC. There's a lot of teams we're saying that about.
Well, and let's pause here just a second. Billy Napier will not be the head coach of Florida before the season is over. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Oh,
As
that's
Paul
coming.
As Paul Heyman would say, because he's going to take 2 or 3 more of them lopsided ass whoopings, and they're going to be done in Gainesville.
I don't know. I don't know if
They
it
already
goes
called
that
a
long.
meeting. You know, they already called a meeting or whatever Sunday
Yeah.
morning. The speculation and rumor, people getting all pumped up. Let's bring Lane to Gainesville. Lane Kiffin has won 10-plus games in Oxford 2 out of the last 3 years, and nobody does that. He's a high-quality coach, like you said, Terry.
Yeah.
Has he not won the big one? I don't know that anybody in the SEC wants to see him with the resources that Florida could give him.
Not at all.
On the other hand, he's making $8.8 million a year, and he's contracted through 2029 to be the head coach of Ole Miss. He's got every recruit he wants. He got every transfer guy he wanted, and he has a very, very, very good football team.
He does.
I don't think you get him to commit to the University of Florida mid-season with Ole Miss the way they are right now. I don't think.
Yeah, that's the tough part. I mean, who do you get if you fire him? I mean, so if they fire him over the next 2 weeks or so,
yep,
in Florida, do you just
you're just going to put an interim guy in to be the placeholder until the end of the season? Yeah.
I don't know what else you can do. You can't bring anybody in that's active.
Lane Kiffin's a lot of things, but he wouldn't leave the team that he built with the intention of winning the SEC and playing for a national championship, because that's what he did. Yeah. And he plans to put it on LSU and South Carolina and Kentucky, and he'll have the chance once he gets done with this Georgia Southern nonsense. One thing I like about Lane's schedule, though, is if you look at the rest of it, the garbage games are out of the way. Yeah. That's all conference play now.
You know, it's funny because Hugh Freeze came out after the California game saying he would rather delay these games like Alabama A&M to further into the season. I'm not sure of his logic there, but I don't know. That was what he said.
Silly. Who's number 4?
Number 4 is Ohio State, sitting at 2-0 because they had a bye week after they beat Akron and Western Michigan, and they're playing Marshall this week. So another team that we're not going to see any competition against anytime soon.
But do not sleep on this schedule, Terry. Starting the 28th, Michigan State, Iowa, Oregon, by Nebraska, Penn State.
Yep.
You talk about the teeth of a schedule. Like you said, Michigan State's doing better than we thought they would. Iowa, of course, is Iowa. They're going to play tough defense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get Oregon in Eugene. And then they get my Nebraska Cornhuskers that should be 7-0 in Columbus before they tote that ass whooping. But I don't think they're going to get the same Nebraska team they thought they might get at the beginning of the season.
Of course.
And I don't think they're going to get the same team I thought they were going to get. But my point is, and then they play Penn State the week after. You get right there, that's the teeth of it. That's the teeth of that schedule. But of course, they're going to put 50 on Marshall first.
Right. Yeah, and you say that's the teeth, but they, obviously they end with Michigan, and we talk about Michigan being lesser than, but if they're going to get up for a game, it's going to be Ohio State. But then that Indiana team's another one that's they've shown up so far this year. So
well, both those games are at home, so that favors the
it
Buckeyes.
Does. All right, let's look at number 3,
Alabama.
And like we said, Alabama's just putting it to whoever they're playing right now. But, they went to Wisconsin and won last week, like we said. But they are getting a bye week in anticipation of next week's game against Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah, Georgia. Then they got Vandy, South Carolina, Tennessee,
At
Missouri.
Tennessee. So
Yeah.
that'll be a game right there, that at Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy schedule for them. The
And they
Tennessee
do go to
game-
Norman a week before the Iron Bowl too.
Yeah, and the Iron Bowl, unless Auburn starts playing really well, may be disappointing for one half of this show.
And we will be purchasing some tickets for that later this week.
Yes, sir. Bottom line, though, Alabama Georgia is going to be the game everybody wants to see next week.
Yep.
I mentioned it in hour one of our show. Dave, Pondwater David Miller, Dave Miller, the man himself, will be here next week because he picked the game that he wanted to preview along with the others, Alabama Georgia.
All right.
So now they're hosting Georgia, so this isn't Tuscaloosa, but get healed up, get played, get the momentum off. I don't know if you'd want a bye week right before Georgia after the way they played in Wisconsin, though, but that's the way the schedule has fallen.
Well, they are both taking a bye week this week. before
Oh,
their
well,
showdown
there
against
you go. There you go.
That should
All
be
right,
pretty
so
good.
number 2 is Georgia.
Number 2 is Georgia.
Rude. I didn't know that. I just said that out loud. But go ahead, Terry.
All right, so they got a bye week, like I said, before they head to Tuscaloosa, and you know Auburn. I think about Auburn's schedule and how it shapes up, but Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa and then they host Auburn, and Auburn's got a couple of those that are pretty good with Alabama and with Georgia. They've got some road games right before they play the game against Auburn, and we'll take whatever we can get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Auburn. Then they got Mississippi. Then that Texas game. Ooh, you know, we thought the Florida game would be something because it usually is there in Jacksonville.
Oh, it's going to be nothing.
But damn,
no
if that's
telling
not
what
going to
that
be a
is.
blood. And look, Billy Napier might not be the head coach of Florida in November 2nd.
They've got at Ole Miss,
Yeah.
followed by Tennessee in November.
And Georgia Tech is not a gimme this year.
No, not at all.
And it's the last game of the season when everybody should be the best version of their football team.
So, like we said, there's a bye week. We'll talk more about them next week as we preview the Georgia at Alabama game. But
I bet you game day will be in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Oh, number 1 with the bullet.
Number 1
it's
is
Texas.
the Longhorns, and they, you know, quarterback gets hurt. They got another one. Don't worry about it. They are stacked, and they're rolling over whoever they play, which includes the defending national champions, obviously, in Ann Arbor, and put it to them. And, you know, Louisiana Monroe this week, that's going to be nothing. They got Mississippi State next, then a bye week, and then they got Oklahoma. So that'll be an interesting game. The first SEC version of Texas, Oklahoma.
Of the Red River Shootout, yeah. So Oklahoma, Georgia.
Followed by Georgia. Yes. Some of these sequences of games are interesting because Georgia's sitting there going, put it all out there against Oklahoma, and then we'll play you next week.
Yeah. And then Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, A&M. So the schedule favors them towards the end, I would say.
Yeah.
But that Oklahoma, Georgia back-to-back. And let's face it, Louisiana Monroe might as well give 50 to Texas before it ever gets started because Arch Manning is going to try to fight for the job that he didn't, you know.
Right.
I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, but, I mean, he's the backup quarterback. And, I mean.
He knows he's in a waiting stance here. He knows he's the guy when it's time for him to be the guy, but Ewers is there.
But this is also how dynasties are built.
Yeah.
When you have starting quarterbacks that could walk into any locker room in the country, and one of them, you have another one who is your backup, who could walk into almost any
right
team in the country's locker room. That's a good spot to be in if you are Texas.
But in 2024,
as long as you can keep Arch Manning.
Yeah, and in 2024, that's the difficulty. It's easy to leave. And you can go somewhere else and be the guy But the fact that he's a Manning, the fact that he's coached up by two uncles and a grandfather and a dad that have experience with a lot of this stuff.
Oh, and David
Um,
Cutcliffe, the former coach at Duke, who is the personal quarterback coach for both Eli and Peyton Manning.
right. Yeah, there's no coincidence that the guy that's actually staying as a backup, waiting his turn, is the one that has all those people in his family. There's
And
no
not to
coincidence.
mention, not that he would stay this long, Terry, but after this season, he's got 3 more years of eligibility minimum
Right.
without a contestation from the NCAA.
So he's got plenty of time to showcase his talents.
So you want to run them down?
I
and
do
then
want to run them down, and
Move
then
on.
we'll go to this week. So number 10, Oklahoma. Number 9, Oregon. Number 8, Missouri. Number 7, Miami. Number 6, Tennessee. Number 5, Ole Miss. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 3, Alabama. Number 2, Georgia. And number 1, Texas. And to be honest, I looked at this and I said, man, our voters are really stacking the SEC. But then I looked at the AP poll and I was like, okay, well, so is the AP poll.
Yep. You are 100% correct, my man.
So let's talk about week 4. And we call this week 4 games we care about. I'll say that. I don't know that I care a tremendous amount about every one of these games, but these are the selections we thought that we would talk about today. And Friday night, we've got Illinois at Nebraska. Nebraska favored by, and I need to
8.5.
Need to make it bigger so I can read. I'm too old. I had it really small on the screen. There we go.
8.5.
Favored by 8.5. What are you thinking here, Andrew? I'll let you go first on this one.
Obviously, Nebraska's going to win this ball game. Sellout number 400. It's under the lights. It will be putting Nebraska 4-0 for the first time in God knows how long. I think 2016. You can fact check me. It's all right. But it's a mirror image of each other. Illinois is led by Brett Bielema, however you want to say his name. Former Wisconsin head coach, went to Arkansas, played for coach with Belichick, came back to college, went to Illinois after Lovie Smith was fired from the job. Plays great defense, good run game. Obviously, was the Wisconsin coach that embarrassed Nebraska's vaunted Pelini defenses. This is a different Nebraska football team. This team does not turn the ball over. Raiola had the one pick, but again, it was a contested throw that could have easily gone either way, in my opinion. What I want to see Friday night is more sizzle. We got plenty of steak. Yep. I want to see a little bit more sizzle because Nebraska's defense is going to do its job. Dylan Raiola is going to do his job. But what I want to see is Nebraska, if it's the polar bear on defense or if it's Raiola on offense or one of his supporting characters, pick Illinois up and break them over their knee. Give them one thing. You guys can't beat us. And we just proved it to you. Whether it's an over-the-top throw, a big-time sack, a goal line stance, I want to see a little more sizzle. Defensively, they got to tackle better because they're going to deal with a lot bigger running backs at Illinois than they dealt with in Northern Iowa. Offensively, Raiola, don't fear the blitz. Do your progressions. Do what you do. You're the number 1 quarterback in the country in 2024's class for a reason. Just play your game. Don't let the moment get too big. The one thing I like about him, Terry, at 19 years old, the moment really never has gotten too big for him yet. But this is the first big game,
right?
With Big Ten implications. So they just need to play their game. 1 quarter at a time, 1 play at a time. And I'd like to see Nebraska's defense put about 5 or 6 sacks up and just wreak havoc on that line of scrimmage.
We got a score prediction here.
Oh, yeah. Give me Nebraska 31, Illinois 14.
Okay. I'll take Nebraska. Maybe not by that much. I'll say 24-13.
Just keep this in mind. Consecutive sellout number 400 from 1962. This is all I'm saying. I know you smile and laugh every time I say that. The volume of that stadium Friday night, it's going to be outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to blow any decimal meter. You know, you talk about the old Seattle Seahawk days when the damn stadium in Seattle was so loud. This stadium, it's going to be loud with 88,000 people in it Friday night. So, home field advantage, that's why I'm taking Nebraska as high, by 17 points because
Right.
it's going to matter. And I think the
All right.
defense shows up and actually scores. Let's put it that way, Terry. I think that Dylan's going to get some help from that defense to put him in good position.
All right.
So
Let's move
up next,
on.
I want to do this one because
Okay.
it's the Wolfies and Clemson, and I know it's 15.5 on the spread,
Right.
but I want to let everybody know that whenever Clemson and the Wolfpack play, these games get a little chippy. They get a little physical. There have been a few close ones. Terry, this is at Clemson, isn't it? This is in Death Valley?
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, my man. You're up first.
All right. So I think NC State's better than maybe we've seen this year. I think Clemson, we mentioned them as probably the second best team in the ACC. But I think NC State's going to have a little chip on their shoulder coming in. I think Clemson wins, but I don't think it's this 15.5 stuff. I think Clemson wins by touchdown here.
Dabo Swinney is a hell of a motivator, two-time national champion, AP Coach of the Year, and he has just seen Florida State go to 0-3. This is the first conference game. It's in Death Valley. It's a very difficult place to win. It's 12 o'clock noon. Give me Clemson by 30.
Your favorite number, 30.
My favorite number. Give me 30. But no, Clemson, big time. 4 touchdowns or more.
All right, let's head over to the Big Ten. We've got USC heading to Ann Arbor. Saturday, one of several games around 3:30. I don't know what all channels these are going to be on, but this is going to be a big one. USC at Michigan. USC favored by 6.5. I don't think much of Michigan this year, honestly. And I don't base it just on the Texas game. I think they had a closer game with Arkansas State than they should have had. I think USC is very good, probably more than they're getting credit for. And I think USC wins by 14.
Yeah, USC, the only team that scored on them is LSU. And they didn't burn the woods down. I like SC to go into Michigan in the big house. They've been in these hostile environments before. I think that Riley's going to have that. Lincoln Riley's going to have that offensive SC humming and strumming. I think Michigan has an identity crisis. Not trying to be funny. I just don't know that they know who they are. When you lost Jim Harbaugh, I was doing some talking in the group chat. You saw me and TJ going back and forth, and I just looked up Jim Harbaugh. Over 700 win-loss record in college and pro football. Terry, that's one hell of a coach that you're trying to replace with Jamal Harbaugh. And he is a player's coach. And for anybody that knows what I'm talking about, players believe in him. He's like Dion, and we haven't talked about Dion, but players believe in Jim Harbaugh. I don't think you have that same level of intensity for Moore at this point. They don't know who they are. They're playing at the backup quarterback is starting against SC on Saturday. He could shoot the lights out and win the game, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings. But give me SC by 17.
All right. We're thinking similar there. And then we head back to the ACC.
34-17, Terry, is the score.
Okay. I don't know that I was giving scores, just spreads. But
yeah, but give me 17. Yeah.
Okay.
Georgia Tech, Louisville, at Louisville. Louisville's 10.5. That might be a little generous. I haven't seen much of Louisville. Terry, tell me about Louisville.
I think a lot about Georgia Tech here. And I don't know. I don't have all the info for Louisville in front of me, but I've seen a little more of Georgia Tech, and I know they've got a loss, but I think they'll go in there, and they're going to be closer than that. I'm trying to decide if I'm picking Georgia Tech to win or not. Give me Louisville at home by a field goal.
Give me Georgia Tech at Louisville by a field goal.
All right, one of us had to do it.
Well, and the thing is, the reason I like it is because Georgia Tech runs the ball. Plays a
Yeah.
good line of scrimmage play. I don't know enough about Louisville other than they love to throw the ball. It's the former Purdue coach, Jeff, somebody, I forget his name. He was the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Went to the Big Ten
Of
championship,
course, I normally know his name.
and he
Jeff
was in
Brom.
Jeff Brom, and he was in the ACC championship game last year, losing to Florida State. So it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. But I like Georgia Tech's ability to control the line of scrimmage in this one.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be gamey to fight this because, of course, they did have the loss to Boston College. They just beat my nephew's school, VMI, and it wasn't even close. The Virginia Military Institute paid them or got paid to play and lose to Georgia Tech. So that's a little cupcake game. They lost by like 60 or something. But I like Georgia Tech to control the line of scrimmage. Nice bounce back. Coming down to final plays. So give me Georgia Tech by 3. And I'm gonna go next. We got Arkansas and Auburn, and this is the game I actually want to watch because I've watched Auburn a little bit. I watched Arkansas in that outing against Oklahoma State and the man, how they let Oklahoma State come back 21. Your offense has proven to me that they have that ability. I don't know about the defense, but I'm a homer. You're my man.
Yeah.
Give me Auburn, but I'm taking them by 6.
Okay.
I think it's 2 field goals, and that's all you're getting out of it. Because I think this one, Terry, has potential to be a basketball game. I mean, I think they can shoot the damn lights out on this one.
I think I'm going to take the 4. The spread, right? Money on the spread because little concerns I've talked about, 2 weeks ago with the loss to Cal. The defense seemed to play pretty well. They made some adjustments. And the offense was just handing the ball over. This week, with a lesser opponent, the quarterback went out, made some smart decisions. They ran the ball. I think they'll do the same thing. I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to look at Hank Brown to make some smart decisions. They might give him some opportunities to throw it deep. I don't know what receivers will be playing, so that might be a factor. But I think at home, Auburn wins this by 4. I think if they were heading to Arkansas, it might be a different story. I think home field advantage gets them this 4 points.
Well, like you said, when you go to the Auburn Stadium, there's a big advantage that you have there.
Yep.
Teams talk about it. They talk about Georgia hates playing Auburn on the road. So,
but then New Mexico State came in and dominated them. So it is inconsistent. They've got to show up and they got to want it.
I think it's 6 points, and the reason I say that is I just think that you're going to have 2 really good offenses. Yeah. Because let's face it, Hugh Freeze is an offensive coordinator. I know he's the head coach, but he's calling the game. But he's going to be matching up against Petrino.
Right.
And Arkansas's defense let Oklahoma State back into that game.
Yeah.
I think they run the risk of doing the same thing with Auburn if they were to get a lead. So I'm going with Auburn. Give me the Tigers by 6, especially a Jordan Hare.
Right. And I'll take the 4. That's the spread. And let's move along to UCLA visiting LSU, and the spread is 22.5. And I know UCLA's not great, but does LSU have enough defense to beat anybody by 22.5 from a power conference?
My thing is UCLA is garbage. So, I mean, I know they're from the Big Ten, but they are not good. I think Brian Kelly wants to build on that win he had Saturday, and he needs to. They still need to find some defense. They need to get a pass rush. They need to control the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But I can see LSU by 3 touchdowns. I'll take the Tigers by 20.
Okay. This is tough because you're right. UCLA is not great, but I
they have a first-year head coach because remember, Chip Kelly left UCLA, and some of the stuff went with him. Some of the players transferred out and all the other stuff.
Give me LSU by 17. I can't put a 20 up there.
You just don't like the Tigers.
I don't.
All right, up next.
I want some of these other SEC teams to be worse than they are. I'm just going to
my perpetually chronic problem of Utah has reemerged. This Cam Rising is got an infection or something. I read he's out.
Oh,
Oklahoma
that
State
guy can't stay on the field.
at Oklahoma State. Look, I picked Utah to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
They can lose this game and still win the Big 12. Give me the man by 10. I'm taking Okie State, and I'm taking them Oklahoma State because it's at home and it's without Cam Rising.
Yeah. Ooh, that's tough. See, I don't know what kind of backup they got this year. I haven't really looked at Utah a lot.
Well, they won 38-14 this past game, but they didn't play anybody to speak of.
This is tough because Oklahoma State's kind of tough too because they kind of played that close game, got behind against Arkansas. What does the man have up his sleeve or his cut off sleeves and his mullet?
And it's in Stillwater.
It
and
is
you
in
know how rowdy
Stillwater.
that is.
I'm not going as big as you. I'm going above the spread here. Give me Oklahoma State by 4.
Gotcha. Cal versus
Florida
the
State.
Seminoles, the Florida State Seminoles, the highly vaunted preseason Seminoles,
The
the
0-3.
0-3 Seminoles at Doak. Sorry, Dave, correct me. Doak Stadium, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Cal is not a good football team. Florida State gets their first win, and I think Florida State gets their first win by less than a touchdown.
This is tough. It's at home, but we said that before. At
Memphis.
home doesn't seem to be helping them out. I don't know. It's tough. I'm going Cal by a field goal.
There you go. There you go. My man.
Cal can run the ball.
Yeah, and Florida State's offensive line can't protect anybody or impose their will to run the ball.
And
As
they
we saw.
picked the ball. Hey, look, they had a million interceptions against Auburn, and they got a quarterback at Florida State that has been giving up the ball too. So we may see more of that. I don't know.
Yeah, Florida
We'll see.
State's not a good football team this year. That's the bottom line. And I hate to say it because, like I said, we picked them preseason, both of us.
Yeah, we did. Game of
Last
the week.
game, the game of the week, game day will be there, I would imagine, unless they're at SC in Michigan. I would think it's Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Right.
Unless they're showing favoritism or whatever. Tennessee in Norman. Josh Heupel returns home to the school that he led to a national championship. I believe it was him. In fact, I know it was him. The 1999 or the 2000 Sooners. Because Bobby Bowden won in 99. So, yeah, it was the 2000 Sooners. That game ended 13-2, Terry. For those of you playing along at home, Oklahoma beat Florida State 13-2 for the national championship. Bob Stoops' second year as the head coach at Oklahoma. They haven't won a national title since, but they've played for them. Tennessee by 21 in Norman. It is going to be a country ass whooping because Oklahoma is a pretender, not a contender.
You're going 21. I'm going 14. Boy, that's a big number you're throwing out there. I'm going to go 14 because I haven't seen Tennessee do it to somebody, and this is the first somebody. Even if they're a pretender, they're a lot better than what Tennessee's played so far. So give me 14.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, and I promised I'd do it. So congratulations to the top 3 here, and I hate every single one of these. I hate that they're on here. Sorry, guys. I'm jealous. I'm number 4. I didn't put myself on here, though, because I'm just putting the top 3. So the college pick'em, those that joined, this is your only reminder. Like I said, I'm not going to continually remind you because if you forget to put your teams in, I'm going to hop over you. Timmy C is winning with a 20-10 record. Bryant is right on his heels with 19-11, and Mike Bover is at 18-12. Those are the top 3. And thanks for participating.
We absolutely appreciate it. We mean it. I'm 16-14 right now, which I think is rude. But if we go on this show,
17-13, I think. Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Is that what you are?
Yeah, I'm right behind Bober here. I think
Yeah.
I'm tied with Allison's brother, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm tied with somebody too. So I am 16-14, which is almost offensive. But if you listen to this show, Terry and I get a lot more of them right than we get wrong. Then they go ahead and go on the ESPN app and we pick games like, who the hell is that? I don't even know what that abbreviation is. But these guys are killing it right now. Congratulations, boys! It's week 3. Don't get too excited.
Plenty of time to
Speaking of
catch up.
excited, we got to wrap up. But next week, Pondwater Dave of the infamous not Ric Flair's last match, where he counted Ric Flair's shoulders were down. He counted Jeff Jarrett out. Dave will be joining us, blind in one eye, can't see shit out of the other, slinging the Cheetos and the Fritos and everything else, and apparently
Doritos.
yelling "Roll Tide," and going to tell us why Georgia will fall to the mighty Alabama, and that'll be fun. So everybody, bring your drinks, buckle up. Dave is joining us next week, and we'll have special guests throughout the season. Hopefully his wife will join us. She's an Ole Miss fan. So I'm really hoping we get to one of the games. Lane is undefeated, and we get to
The big games that I keep saying that he can't win.
that he can't win.
She's going to come on for that. Uh-oh, sorry, Stephanie.
Yeah, because
She's gonna get
I am a Lane supporter. I really want to see him win, particularly because Oxford sucks. I mean, that's all it is. It's like, who wants to coach in Oxford? I mean, he'd be a lot better in Gainesville. But would he, considering what they've done in Gainesville in the last 20 years, other than Urban? But anyway, Terry, Dave's joining us next week. I know I'm excited, even if he is going to razz you and probably say Roll Tide more times than I have ever in a single hour.
That's okay, because who knows what Auburn's record is going to be next week. I may give up on football by that point. All right. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Allison. It's been a great night. Thanks, everybody that tuned in to us and sticking with us for 2 hours plus, because we went a little bit over. But there's so many good games to talk about now that football season is really geared up and going, and teams are not necessarily playing the high school opponents anymore. So we're seeing some good games, and we're looking forward to another good week, especially at 3:30 or 4 o'clock on Saturday, because I think every channel on the TV is going to have a game.
Yeah, every single one of them, buddy. Every single one. I'm looking forward to it. I love football season. It ends up being the deciding factor in what I do and I don't do in my calendar. As you know, 8 o'clock, Friday night. Don't call, don't write, and don't text. We're busy.
And possibly next week we will report how far away from the field that we end up getting tickets to the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa.
This is very true. We're
It's
going to be up in the
very
nose.
far, because I ain't spending the big bucks, so we're going to be way up there.
We'll be up top. You'll be up top. But they got a big video board, so it doesn't really matter. I had very good tickets in Mercedes-Benz, as you know.
We'll see what we can find. Maybe we'll find something good. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you're listening to the audio eventually. And we're really hitting the stride on the football season now. So it's going to start getting good. Teams are going to start losing games they're not supposed to lose. And we're going to see who needs to stay in the top 10 and who needs to drop out. But thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Allison. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And be a champ this week. And whatever you do, see you next time.